2026, building upon yesterday's inspiring inaugural session that set a visionary tone for the nation's scientific journey. The program was graced by the august presence of the Honorable Minister of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, along with Professor Abhay Karandikar, Dr. Rajesh Kokle, and Professor Shekhar Mande, whose collective leadership reaffirmed India's commitment to scientific national development. Carrying forward that momentum, today's deliberations are devoted to insightful and traditional National Science Day lectures. It is my profound privilege to call on the dais our distinguished guests for today. Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, and Professor Shekhar C. Mande, President, Indian National Science Academy. I request the guests to please come up on dais. A big round of applause to our distinguished guests. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday's inaugural session witnessed the launch and releases of several landmark initiatives and knowledge resources, including the Hydrogen Valley Innovation Cluster, the ANRF Plus Venture Center Outreach Initiative, and the technology transfer, to name a few. And the program symbolized the seamless integration of research, innovation, and societal application. To set the tone for today's academic deliberations, it is my privilege to now invite Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, to deliver the welcome remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Respected Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Shekhar Mande, former Secretary DSIR and President of Indian National Science Academy, all the distinguished colleagues from the Department of Science and Technology, other scientific departments, Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor. Today's eminent speakers, Dr. Shubha Iyengar, Dr. Balasubramaniam, and Mr. Shashi Shekhar Vempati, who received Padma Shri this year in Science and Engineering and Literature and Education. A very warm welcome to all of you on the National Science Day 2026. As you know that National Science Day is celebrated every year to commemorate the discovery of Raman effect by Sir C.V. Raman, who then went on to receive India's first Nobel Prize. Since, several years we have been celebrating this day on 28th February. This year, we started the celebrations yesterday, and as was just mentioned, that we launched certain key initiatives of the Department of Science and Technology and ANRF, in the presence of the Honorable Minister, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji. Today's program includes the lectures by the eminent speakers and the panel discussions. I'm sure that these lectures will be motivating for all the students and researchers who are here to look at the exciting areas, which will be talked about by these speakers. So once again, thank you very much. Again, a warm greetings to you. And I would now then, today's proceedings will be presided over by Professor Sood. and we look forward to the 3 National Science Day lectures today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your visionary opening remarks. It is now our profound honor to invite Professor Shekhar C. Mande, President, Indian National Science Academy, to address the gathering.
इस मंच पर उपस्थित माननीय प्रधान वैज्ञानिक सलाहकार भारत सरकार प्रोफेसर अजय सूद जी, विज्ञान और प्रौद्योगिकी मंत्रालय के सचिव प्रोफेसर अजय करंदीकर जी, इस सभागृह में उपस्थित इस वर्ष के पद्मश्री पुरस्कृत 3 बहुत ही जाने माने वैज्ञानिक डॉक्टर शुभा अयंगार, डॉक्टर बालासुब्रमण्यम, शशिशेखर वेम्पति जी, सभी महानुभाव, छात्रों छात्राओं, सर्वप्रथम भारतीय विज्ञान दिवस 2026 के लिए मैं आप सबका हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं और आज के कार्यक्रम में आपका सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। जैसे कि प्रोफेसर करंदीकर जी ने आपको बताया, 1928 में इस दिन सीवी रामन जी ने कलकत्ता में एक इंडियन एसोसिएशन ऑफ कल्टीवेशन ऑफ साइंस करके संस्था है, वहाँ पे एक नई खोज की थी और उस खोज की उन्होंने पूरे विश्व में उस दिन घोषणा की, जिसे सीवी रमन जी ने कहा था ए न्यू टाइप ऑफ सेकेंडरी रेडिएशन, और जिसे हम लोग आजकल रामन इफेक्ट के नाम से जानते हैं। और जैसे कि प्रोफेसर करंदीकर जी ने हमें बताया कि इस खोज के लिए सीवी रमन जी को नोबेल पुरस्कार प्राप्त हुआ था 1930 में, और इसलिए हर वर्ष हम लोग 28 फरवरी को इसी दिन भारतीय विज्ञान दिवस मनाते हैं सब जगह। और उसी सिलसिले में आगे चलते हैं, मैं विशेष विनती करूंगा, आग्रह करूंगा हमारे प्रधान वैज्ञानिक सलाहकार प्रोफेसर अजय सूद जी से कि वो आज के कार्यक्रम की अध्यक्षता करें। धन्यवाद।
Dr. Abhay Karandikar, Secretary DST, Dr. Shekhar Mande, President INSA, the entire science fraternity, including members from DST, all the science departments, Vibha, Office of PSA, and dear students. First of all, my heartiest greetings to all of you on this National Science Day. I also take this opportunity to congratulate our 3 speakers today for being conferred the Padma Shri this year, Dr. Shubha Iyengar, Dr. K. Balasubramaniam, and Shri Vempati. We are all proud of you. National Science Day has always been about honoring discovery, innovation, and the spirit of inquiry that drives India forward. We should note that it is not only on National Science Day we need to worry about science or think science, but actually it should be a part of our life for every day. The scientific inquiry, the scientific thinking, the scientific way of looking at things should be our way of life. And this is what this National Science Day reminds us. This year's theme, which is so very well chosen, Women in Science, Catalyzing Viksit Bharat, echoes this, our scientific progress and scientific inquiry in a very profound way. And as we already heard, that this day, of course, celebrates the announcement of Raman effect, now as it is called by Sir C.V. Raman in 1928. And this day today is really for all of us to look at how we are doing in science and what we need to do to really take India forward. Now, as the theme is on women in science for this year, we should also see, it's good to see some historic facts that there were a lot of women scientists who worked with Sir C.V. Raman and his associates. And if you look at that, this entire journey embodied in this scientific inquiry, pioneers like Kamla Shone. Actually, she was the first Indian woman to earn a PhD in science who broke barriers in Indian Institute of Science, my alma mater, and went on to lead nutrition research. And another prominent name is Dr. Anna Mani, who became Deputy Director General of the Indian Meteorological Department, shaping India's weather instrumentation and renewable program. And for those who have come to my office, you would have seen her photograph in my office. So, and then we also know Rajeshwari Chatterjee, who rose to head the Department of Electrical Communication. Because usually women, they think it's only biology, but there are many examples. Rajeshwari Chatterjee, she was head at the Department of Electrical Communication Engineering at IISc, and pioneering work in microwave engineering, and trained whole lot of generation of engineers. And of course, we also know about Dr. Lalita Chandrasekhar. Some of you might know, she is wife of late S. Chandrasekhar, our Nobel laureate in physics. But in her own right, she was very accomplished, a physicist who contributed to astrophysics while advocating for women in science. So their journey reminds us that women have long been catalysts of India's scientific progress. Now, celebrating National Science Day under this theme is not only about recognizing or acknowledging women's contribution to laboratories, classrooms, and startups, but it is also recognizing them as the catalyst of national progress in all walks of life. It reinforces the idea that science is not an abstract pursuit, but rather than as a force that shapes society, economy, and culture. So so I thought it is good to look at, because there may not be other occasion, to look at some statistics, how we are doing in this, so that it's also a reminder where the gaps are. So today women account for nearly 43% of STEM graduates in India. This is considerably higher than the global average, which is about 30%. And this underlines that India is making progress in dismantling barriers and building a future where almost half the population contributes fully to innovation and discovery. Now, another one, a good number to look at is this, the national goal of engaging 70% of women in economic activities is moving closer to reality, as the female employment has nearly doubled from 2017 to 2024. And the drop in female unemployment rate, as the statistics shows, has come down from 5.6% to 3.2%. I'm giving these numbers by design just to reflect that we need to see the data and not only talk very colloquially when we talk of looking at women empowerment. So this is all reflecting how we are progressing in this direction. Now, although this transition into the professional workforce is still unfolding, the Research and Development Statistics Report, which has just come out a few months back, 2025, shows some encouraging progress. So I thought again it will be interesting for today to note that women now constitute about 18.6% of the total workforce engaged in R&D activities. And sector-wise, their presence is most visible in government institutions, where almost 45.9% of women in R&D are employed. And another 27.7% are contributing in the higher education sector. So this number has to go up, because if you look the various higher education institutes, there is a lot more to be desired when we want to look at gender equality. So this is, these are the numbers just to know that we are doing well, but we still have many more things to do, so that this does not even become a point of discussion, but is taking as a done deal. Now, there have been various schemes. DST has many programs, as you know. We have Vigyan Jyoti for girls from grade 8 to 9 in STEM to encourage them. Then we have Vice Kiran. We have Gati, the gender advancement or transforming institutions. All these are contributing to the statistics which I just presented. And this, again, I think there is a whole continuum of reforms which are happening. For example, 180 days of paid maternity leave, flexible child care leave, and so on. But all this will add to the goal of really having the full women involvement in not only in STEM, but in all walks of life. So our office of PSA has also been very sensitive to this issue. We have a few programs. For example, we have a dedicated platform called Women in STEM on our Manthan platform. I encourage to look for you to look at how we bring the supply and demand side in R&D problem solving on this Manthan platform. We have the VN program for mentoring hundreds of women, and our recent program of Rutak Smart Village Centers, which really empowers the rural technology. They are also the RSV centers. Many of them are really headed by Gram Panchayat Didi or other young women. So all this is just to show that we are moving in the right direction. And startups culture, which we all know, we are very proud of, almost 1.8 lakh startups in the country now. Here also, we have, as per the DPIIT statistics, 700 women-led startups. No, rather this number is more, sorry, but this 7,000 startups have raised about 27 billion US dollar in funding. So that's not, so one cannot say that there are biases, and this is something, a very encouraging sign. And this places the country second globally after US. So this momentum is visible also across many regions. Bangalore hosts almost 700 women-led startups, which have raised about 13 billion US dollar since 2010. And Maharashtra with about 45% of the startups which are women-led. So I thought it's good to look at the statistics on this day, be it in education, be it in R&D, be it in the startup ecosystem. So now even in MSMEs, which is a huge part of our economy, 20% of the MSMEs are women-owned. And this is something, a good sign, and I'm sure this number will go up. And they contribute almost to 630 billion US dollar to nation's GDP, a substantial fraction. So I think we also have challenges. Probably I mentioned on some other occasion, though we have 44% women in early career, as you go up, it's only 26%. So this leaky pipeline we need to address, that why only 26% and why not all of them remain in the workforce and go to the leadership role. So this is something we should be aware of it, and all the leadership in the room as well as outside, we will work towards that. Now, the journey towards a developed India finds its guiding spirit in the legacy of another C.V. Raman student, Dr. Janki Amal. Some of you must be aware, pioneering Indian botanist, first Indian women to receive a PhD in botany. And her groundbreaking work in plant breeding and cytology, particularly in developing high-yield sugarcane, directly strengthened our nation's agriculture economy. So by combining scientific excellence with national service, all these women scientists and the entire community has demonstrated how women scientists can shape not only knowledge, but also the very foundation of economic progress. So once again, my greetings to all of you on this National Science Day. And this Science Day reflects our mission to have S&T as the pathway to Viksit Bharat 2047. And this is something we are all co-travelers, and I am sure in coming years, we will have many, many more things to show. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Principal Scientific Advisor, for eloquently contextualizing today's lectures and for underscoring the importance of women-led scientific leadership in advancing towards Viksit Bharat 2047 and also highlighting the statistics and programs of Government of India. Thank you so much, sir. To move ahead with the proceedings of National Science Day 2026 lectures, I call upon stage Dr. Rashmi Sharma, Head, NCSTC, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India.
Namaskar, and thanks to Principal Scientific Advisor, Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, for setting up the tone for today's lectures. And to take the agenda forward, we have Dr. Shubha V. Iyengar with us. She is the only women scientist who has received the Padma Shri this year. So we will be starting the first lecture with her only. It is my privilege to introduce Dr. Shubha V. Iyengar. Shubha V. Iyengar is a material scientist with over 5 decades of research and technology experience spanning airport instrumentation, thermophysical instrumentation, high pressure science, and ultra-high temperature ceramic materials. Dr. Iyengar executed over 30 nationally significant projects and contributed to indigenous technologies such as Drishti, a visibility measurement system for safe airport operations, now deployed across major airports and defense airbase in India. Her work in advanced material, MEMS sensors, and aerospace-grade ceramics has significantly supported strategic programs including missiles and propulsion technologies. She has received numerous national honors for her outstanding contribution to science and technology. So she is now a role model for all the aspiring young girls who wants to become the scientist in near future. So I would invite Dr. Shubha V. Iyengar to kindly deliver her lecture.
Good morning to all the dignitaries and my dear students and many people who have attended the function today, particularly to Dr. A.K. Sood, Dr. C. Mande, and Havai Kandikar. It is very kind of you people to have invited me to give the talk, and I'm thankful to you for all the appreciation you people have shown. I will just project my work, what I did for almost 46 years of my stay at NAL. I joined CSIR NAL as a research person. I got CSIR fellowship directly from CSIR without any interview or any written test during those days way back in 1974. So many work, what I did, I briefly present whatever I have done at those days. First slide, please. So I will briefly explain to you what are all the products we developed, made in India technologies for aerospace and defense sectors, and not only for that, even for the education sector. Way back in 1976, 78, I was doing my PhD. It was very difficult to get project funds those days. And imported equipments were very expensive. So many thermophysical instrumentation, that means whatever is required for the measurement of material properties. I was in material science division of NAL. So they were finding it very difficult to characterize the material. So at that time, many instruments I made it at those days because I had an MSc electronics background. Next slide, please. So all these indigenous technology were the first of its type, very cost effective, and has saved lots of foreign exchange to the country. I will go with first material characterization techniques briefly, and then the most important thing what was required for me to develop was as all of you, many people know, that Drishti, which is a mandatory equipment for airport operations. And then I was also asked to develop a very special component for defense sector from DRDL Hyderabad. While I present that thing, I'll tell you a brief story about that. Next. So these are all the different characterization techniques which were developed way back in 1976 to 1980. Specific heat system, thermal cycling apparatus, electrothermal analyzer, and thermopower, which is a very sensitive property to study the phase diagram and the PT pressure temperature plane. I also worked in NAL, there was a high pressure setup which was there. So many samples were studied at very high pressures. Normally at sea level, we call it as 1 atmosphere or 1 bar. So we could go up to 50,000 atmosphere, 50 kilobars, and temperature up to 1,000 degrees, and study properties of many materials. And these were all supplied to many universities, Mysore, Bangalore, and also some colleges in Bangalore and NIE, National Institute of Engineering, Mysore. And finally, in 2012, these systems were donated to the Indian Academy of Sciences as they were providing assistance to college teachers and students. Next slide. So I would like to mention here that, which was I was not knowing, because those days there was no internet and nothing of this modern facilities, no computer also. Whatever papers published in 1986, it was reported by NASA as their report those days, which I was not aware. Only last year I came to know about it. And of course, we have characterized many materials for scientists from Bell Telephone Labs, Max Planck Institute of Germany, and many other organizations, and many even Nobel laureates used to send their samples because they believed that our characterization technique was very good. Next. So as I said, finally in 2006, instead of whatever I developed was all individual analog circuitry, so we made it software-based because by that time we could hand over, take into the software thing. So donated these systems also to the science education program. And Professor R. Srinivasan, who was there as a director of Indian Academy for teaching the college students, we got it, and we got 5 awards for this system. In 2006, first IETE Corporate Award, and then 87, 1992, we got the best award from CSR NAL, and also awards in international conferences at 87 and 2006. Next. So this is the most important product which we had to develop, a visibility measuring system. It's a mandatory equipment which gives information to the pilots how much distance he can see on the runway. Normally, it is very crucial, particularly during the fog season. Otherwise, in south, it may not be that much of a problem, but from northeast to northwest, during end of November to end of January, it's very foggy season. So it was, it gives, this particular system gives information to pilots in real time on how much distance he can see on the runway. It is put parallel to the runway. There will be a video which will be shown at the end of my talk, which gives you an information about this one. Next slide. So not only this, we also developed Mini Drishti for railways and highways and for army in hilly terrains during low visibility. And next we developed what is called as forward scatter meter, which is for heliports. And then there's a visibility sensor, vertical visibility you can see. And then we've developed another important system called aviation weather monitoring system, which has been installed in 4 airports, Bhubaneswar, Mangalore. Bangalore, we have 2 systems, and then Kannur International Airport in Kerala. And also we made a mini automatic weather station, which this aviation system measures wind speed, wind direction, pressure, temperature, humidity, and dew point. I'll briefly explain to you at a little later stage. And then this mini system, which is also used for surface weather monitoring and for agriculture purposes and weather observatories, this can be used, which can be mounted in any place very easily. Next slide, please. So as I said, visibility is a very crucial parameter for pilots. And what is visibility is during landing or takeoff, the pilot should be capable of seeing, there will be a white mark in the runway that he should be seeing during the daytime and during the nighttime runway lights. There is it's a real-time system where per day 8,640 data points will be collected. Every 10 seconds we have to collect the data. And we have to make correction for, there is a source of light and there is a sensor kept 30 meters apart. And any in between, if fog, rain, or smog comes, the intensity of the light comes down, and that will be measured as a intensity of light is, a decrease in intensity is measured as a voltage and converted into a distance as per the International Civil Aviation Organization stipulations. We have to follow their equations, what it was stipulated by ICAO, and then everything was followed. It's a completely indigenous system with very cost effective. It's almost 1/5 the cost of the imported system. Earlier they were having imported system which was not functioning properly, and we made this system. As I said, it's a mandatory system as per International Civil Aviation Organization and World Meteorological Organization. Please, next. So Drishti is a system which requires knowledge base of almost all branches of engineering, structural, electronics, computer science, telecommunications, you name the branch of engineering, everything is required, but the heart of the system is physics. All of you, maybe some of your students, and even when we were young, we were actually focusing sunlight onto a lens and keeping a paper below the lens to burn the paper. That is focusing. So this same principle, what we used in our childhood, in high school days and other things, we used that principle to develop this. Innovation in optics, electronics, software, and enclosure, and even the enclosure, because it has to be, it is subjected to all critical parameters, 365 days, 24 hours, it has to stand outside. I normally make a statement that even a human being created by the God, if we are subjected to all this kind of weather conditions, we suffer. But God-made, I'm sorry. A human-made system also have to withstand, means it has to be very, very rugged and perfect. So there are maintenance servicing made very easy by modular electronics and also through remote internet access. We can log on to the thing, we have the knowledge base to the component level, and it is very, very easy to repair it over the phones. I do it most of the times for many airports and also for Air Force airports. So there are different categories of the airport called Cat 1, Cat 2. In Cat 3, there is Cat 3A, 3B, 3C. These are all the minimum things the distance should be seen by the pilot required for him to land. So category 3B is very important. That thing is in IGA airport is a category 3B airport. So we have to, the visibility should be more than 50 meters for the pilots to land. Next slide, please. So as I said, the Drishti is put parallel to the runway, and the whole data communicated to the ATC. Normally, you people would have seen a tall building in most of the airports. There we send the data. India Meteorological Department people are the people who are maintaining all these systems across the country. And I'm thankful to them for giving us an opportunity. Way back in 2011, there was an issue. And at that time, it was told by many papers. We had long back in 1989, they had some similar system was made, and a lot of problems were there. And the Minister of Science and Technology in 2011 was very unhappy that our technology was not good. So I was sent for the meeting because I had the electronics background, and I was told that this has to be somehow sorted out. Of course, there were a lot of arguments and other things, and what I remember is, even though I had never worked in this particular field, in particular this one, while I was going to the airport, our former director, Dr. Sitaram Rao Valluri, SR Valluri, he had retired in 1984, but in 2011, he was 87 years old. He called me and told me, you have to keep up the prestige of NEL. A person who had retired 27 years back, if he had that passion that NEL name should not go down, and he said, somehow you have to do it. And it is with his blessings and the support from India Meteorological Department people. And I would like to introduce two people who have come here from India Meteorological Department people who were there at the time when I developed this system, Mr. M.K. Bhatnagar and Mr. Vivek Sanna, both of them. It's a real, I thank you both. Both of them were main people controlling all the airport's operations. So it was very nice of them to support an indigenous system. And another person who supported was, at that time, was Dr. Lakshman Singh Rathore, who was the DG of IMD, and then Dr. K.J. Ramesh came. Both of them supported our system so much. Now, 51 systems are working in 21 international airports. I hope it continues. And then I'll come to the next stage later. Next, please. So, journey of Drishti, as I said, it started. There was a meeting on June 15, 2011. I was given time for within 3 months, I am supposed to develop this. Otherwise, NEL is supposed to pay back a huge amount of money, which was impossible. And they came and checked the system at our lab, whatever the system was made in October. And then the runway given to us was a runway where only foreign aircrafts land. And if they approve, then they said, we'll accept it. If there is a diversion, it is very tough because all the passengers have to, first of all, aviation fuel is very expensive. Then all the passengers have to be given, put in the hotel and other things, and then given tickets to go back to their respective places, particularly people coming from foreign, which was used to cost a huge amount of money, close to 1 crore to all these people who are running the airport operations. So particularly IGA airport. So we were given this runway where only foreign aircrafts land, and if they approve, if those pilots during the fast season, if they approve your system is good, then we will accept it. This was a condition put, and somehow luckily with blessings from all the people and God's grace, we could achieve this, and we got the international certification on December 26th for our system because all the foreign pilots appreciated our system. So you can see the graph, how the thick fog was there, and our system beautifully showed the data. The graph indicates this was on 19th December, how the system was there, behaved in Delhi. Next slide. So again, we had to go through all the different seasons like sandstorm. Sandstorm is like a whirlpool, it goes. So they compared with the foreign equipment which they had, and it was from Australia, there was one Tailwind and one on Flamingo, and our system gave a superior data. You can see the blue line where when the sandstorm was there, it behaved in a very nice way. And then at that time, it came in many newspapers. In 18th January 2014, a press statement was released by none other than the Ministry of Earth Sciences telling that indigenously developed runway visibility system is 1/5 the cost of the system, and the system functions exceedingly better than the imported and costly AVA system. This is what the MOES official gave a press statement. Next. So challenges we faced is a real-time operation system, as I said, and it has to work 24 hours, 365 days, facing all the harsh environment conditions, and must be very rugged, and downtime cannot be more than 10 minutes. We achieved everything. Of course, there were a lot of hurdles faced, acceptance of the indigenous system by the user agency, import lobbying, global competition, private companies to take the technology at lower prices, and reverse engineering threat. But see, somehow we came over all these hurdles, and it has become a successful technology. Next. So in 2014, as I showed you that Dr. Lakshman Singh Rathore, who was DG IMD, we signed an agreement for a partnership agreement with the India Meteorological Department, and it came in all the newspapers that NAL instrument to facilitate safety of civilian airports. So this was how it was projected, and now we have installed 51 systems in 21 international airports across the country, and I hope it remains. That's what I pray God. You see, 14 years it has worked, and the downtime, we can repair, as I told you, over the phone. I can tell them what to see and what to, and a component what they have to replace is very, very nominal, not even 40, 50 rupees, one operational amplifier and that kind of a thing, which is very easy to maintain the system, as we have the knowledge base to the component level. Next. So many appreciation for a product developer, customer satisfaction is the most important thing. At that time, Delhi airport, we have 13 systems working in 3 runways in Delhi airport. And then at that time, Ashutosh Kulashreshtha and others, they all said, we are so much grateful to you for developing Drishti. It's a truly eyesight helping aviation community in low visibility conditions, also in maintaining unstinted operations in all weather conditions. And they wrote to, we feel proud to have a system like Drishti. The CEO, Mr. Prabhakar Rao, who was the CEO of GMM Group, he sent this one to minister also, and another German person who was the chief airport operation officer. He said, we are privileged to be amongst your first most certified customer. So it is all very kind of them, because as I said, a product developer requires the user certification in a very bad way. Next. So the DGCSR at that time was Dr. Garg, who also appreciated us, and then said, people have made CSR proud. I was very touched when he said, I salute them. And then Dr. Rathore also sent a letter to the director and also personally to me to say, I reinforce that Drishti is a milestone development and will go a long way towards Make in India product. Next. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, as I said, many newspapers said, and this is also given by Minister of Civil Aviation, has declared that Drishti has increased flight operations by 67% at IG Airport during the fog. And we, at that time, since the time was very short, we used National Instruments data acquisition system. Of course, in Indian rupees, no foreign exchange. It has saved crores of foreign exchange for the country. So their co-founder, and also the president came down all the way from America to see Drishti. And he said, Drishti has an excellent example of how LabVIEW and FPGA can be used to create incredible cyber-physical systems. And their vice president also gave very good remarks on our system. Next. Okay, during 2016, Tata's got a very huge order from this one. So at that time, they had initially gone with Indian Air Force modernization of Air Force infrastructure. They had a huge project. Initially, they went with imported system from Australia. I told them, but they said, we have already gone with the tender with that name. But it did not work, so we signed an agreement because they were losing a heavy money because this is a mandatory equipment and defense people were not paying them the money. So they were losing heavy money every day to the tune of few crores. So we supplied them 22 systems, and then also we gave them technology transfer in this one when they got the second phase, where now totally 120 systems are working in Indian Air Force air bases, and it is aiding the country in a big way for IAF operations. Next. So many letters have come. I will not go into the details. They are all appreciated. Tata's people have sent a letter to Dr. Harshavardhan, who was the Minister of Science and Technology at that time. They said it's a true feather in the cap towards the Make in India concept promulgated by our Honorable PM. Next. So this also appeared in CSIR Republic Day Parade. This came, and then also Center of Excellence workshop on Drishti RVR was made for Air Force Station in Agra in 2000. This one we have got some copyrights, publications, and we also got many awards. And our sincere thanks to Jet Airways, AirAsia, and Indigo and Blue Dart people for transporting the system, because it would have costed us more than 200 to 300 lakhs, but they all transported it free of cost, because they said you are saving our aircraft, passengers, everything. It's very kind of them to have helped them. Next, please. So as I said, Dr. Harshavardhan came down to NAL and he wanted to see how the system performs, and then it was also put as na mumkin ab mumkin hai, which is not possible was no possible. We have got many awards, 10 awards for Drishti team awards, and I have individually got 14 awards. Next, please. So even put it in Bangalore, it was appreciated a lot in papers that Bangalore airport has got all our systems. That's our, I stay in Bangalore, so felt proud. Next. So many letters were given, and international recognition also came. One person from IMD, Mr. Mohan, had gone for a conference Exeter in England, and there the General Secretary of World Meteorological Organization and International Civil Aviation Organization, they told all the other countries to take Drishti and put it in their airport. And recently, one of my classmates has gone to Germany, and there I believe, you know that German technology is considered as an excellent technology. There they appreciated, okay, so this is the thing, the Germans appreciated our Drishti a lot, I believe. Next. So I believe time is going on, so I don't want to say much about it. This is when Drishti completed 10 years, all the people appreciated our work a lot, and few messages I have put it there. Anyway, since time is up, I don't want to go into that. Just one sentence I would like to tell that, next please. That presently 171 systems are working in the country, and it has proved its thing because 14 years it has worked continuously. Next. So also we made a new system called as Bharat Visibility System, which is also installed in Donyapalli Airport, Itanagar. And next, with the many novel technique, completely indigenous, even National Instruments data acquisition system and other things are not used. Next. So let me not, you skip this slide, please. So we have made, as I said, other systems also, aviation weather monitoring system and other things. So since time is up, I will stop here, but only one sentence I would like to make. We also contributed a lot to the defense program, DRDL program, where a crucial component was required for the Agni missile, and it was not meeting the target. We developed that system, a component, many components, 4 to 5 components, which were all embargo product, and then which was embargo product, and also that it was not successful by many foreign countries when they think we could do it, and the Agni missile program became very successful, and later on they wanted us to do it for 2-3 programs also of reaction control thrusters and scramjet, ramjet engine, which are all used in satellite programs, and all those things became successful. You just go to the last slide, please. So this is what this particular, we made a new pillar, which was not, earlier they were using fiberglass thing, which is very dangerous because very high temperature, the glass fiber oozes out. So we made a new thing with aluminum angle, and nature proved when Fani cyclone took place, the mast fell on its own, which was required, and that it happened. Next. You just skip all these things. So this is the Agni missile program, which one I told everything, so you can go further since time is up. Next. Next, please. So we met all these things, and the success of this particular thing, we used zirconium-based alloys for making this particular component, which can withstand 3000 K, and also a very high speed it withstood actually. of Mach. We say 6.2 Mach is a sound of velocity, which is very, very high, and it withstood, our component withstood without erosion. And I give this technology, this one, the credit goes to a person who passed away, who was in NEL. He had a lung cancer and he passed away. So we dedicate this success to him. Next. Thank you. Next. That's what I have put, success of DRDO project dedicated to late Dr. R. Sheshadri, who started it. Next. So to achieve and to be successful, this is for students, hard work, disappointments, criticisms, rejections, everything will be there. But have confidence, do hard work, have confidence, and that will definitely take you to a better this one, and it will make you achieve. Confidence and determination is most important. It is better than, confidence is better than perfection because it will make you handle the worst situation. So we have a, next slide. Next slide, please. So I will say that Ramakrishna Parahamsa always said success is a measure as decided by the, accepted by the users, but satisfaction is a measure as felt and decided by us. We have the satisfaction that we have contributed something to the education, aviation, space, and R&D and defense sectors. Thank you very much. Sorry for taking a little bit more time.
It was a remarkable lecture. Thank you, ma'am, for your enlightening lecture and for sharing your remarkable journey for, in development of indigenous scientific technology. You have given drishti to all the pilots, and as I think all of us travel across the country and across the globe also, but many of us might not be knowing who has given drishti to the flights. So this was a very insightful lecture. You have given us directions towards leadership, commitment, and team spirit, because you introduced your team as well. So you have also mentioned about that everybody should be having confidence in themselves, so that, and they should be accepting their failures as well, because while doing any work, research and development, you have failures as well. So you should be ready to accept your failures as well. So thank you very much, ma'am. So moving ahead with the second lecture in the series, we are having the lecture on very, very important topic, critical minerals and materials. You might have heard about critical minerals and materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other rare earth elements, which are essential for modern technologies, global energy transition, and national security. These are crucial for EV batteries, solar panels, wind turbines, and advanced electronics. So we now move on to the lecture 2. It is my pleasure to invite Dr. K. Balasubramaniam, Director, NFTDC, an eminent leader in technology development and translation research, whose work has significantly contributed to advanced manufacturing and technology deployment for national missions. He has worked in the area of critical minerals and materials. So may I request Dr. K. Balasubramaniam to kindly deliver his lecture.
Namaskar, Swagatam. I sincerely thank Professor Sood, Professor Mande, Dr. Karandikar, and other eminent scientists and dignitaries here. What I would like to talk about is very different from what you have heard, but there are a lot of similarities in the struggle. When I realized that the theme was women in science catalyzing Viksit Bharat, I was wondering, how do we fit into the theme? Then my wife told, do you remember we are living in Durgabai Deshmukh colony? I said, yes. She was the person before independence started women's education in Hyderabad and Andhra Pradesh called Andhra Mahila Sabha. Even today it exists, even after bifurcation of the state. And just behind us is the law college, in front is the other colleges. So imagine more than, 75 years ago, people who have taken all these initiatives. So it is the education that transformed our landscape, and many, many people have contributed it. The next, if I can start the slides, see, instead of talking what we have done earlier, can I go to the next one, please? Is it the right? Yes. Instead of talking more than what we had done before, our current challenge, what do we do, and what is the roadmap that we have to do is what I want to present. About 20 years ago, we had two problems presented to us, or more than two, but two we took up. One was the cryo engine. The Russian satellites, or Russian engines that we bought, 3 of them, did not reach the orbit, and the then chairman, ISRO, suggested that we had to take it up 100% indigenization. So that's what we did, and that has gone to Mars, Moon, etc. I'm not talking about that, but that was the one that brought us into critical materials. All the things that we had to do, we are a non-ferrous materials technology center, the self-financing one, and we had to do it ourselves. There are a lot of students here I want all of you to appreciate. You are seeing Donald Trump going and ready to take over Greenland, Ukraine, everything for critical minerals, correct? Whereas we have some of them with us and many of them not with us. So what do we do? Nature has not given us some things. If you look at it, if you look at the periodic table, you'll see on the left, we call them as base metals. We will be making them in almost 1 million tons or hundreds of million tons if it is steel, which is only the 5 group. Whereas there are 30 plus on the right-hand side, we call them as technology critical materials. You have very little you take, but it has a very disproportionate effect. Be it your battery, your cell phone has 22 critical metals. 22. From tungsten to rare earth to whatnot. Right? So, and the problem is the product is made in billions or millions and billions. So after use, it gets scattered. The entropy becomes very high. And it's used in electronics, automotive, energy devices, etc. Whereas we are traditionally in structural energy and transfer. The next slide, please. I have deliberately grouped it on the right-hand side. Why? Because if you see the first line, all these non-ferrous metals from your periodic table, you'll find they're all sitting in rows after rows below. The first line, we have lost it because it comes along with the base metal. And it goes to slag or tailing or a waste. And if you have not taken it out, you have lost it forever, unless otherwise it is sitting as a slag. And the second line, titanium, zirconium, is available with us. And nickel, cobalt, I put it in red, not available. So whatever is in red is not available. RE, rare earth is available, boron, beryllium. And the last line is very important. They are called alkali metals. All you students will know that. They are the only reductants available to a metallurgist. Only with that we produce everything else. So carbon and hydrogen are important, and all the other metals are produced using either electrons or carbon. So sodium, lithium, calcium, magnesium, etc., etc. So this is the starting point for taking out all the elements in the periodic table. The next one, please. We are deliberately good. I'm not going to go through the details of the slide, except that whenever we talk of critical metals, we have to see which sector it is going. And for that sector, what it is. So there are 15 sectors, and I'm giving you the top 6. Aerospace, aeronautics, nuclear, automotive, energy storage, energy production, and electronics. And if you see, whatever is red, which I have showed you, it is not available as a resource with us in India. So we need a strategy and a solution. And now we have carbon composites and new things. And whatever is green is available. Luckily, rare earth is available. The next slide, please. Like that, you can continue for the other sectors. So for 15 sectors, we have to have an impact. So we need a roadmap. We need a solution. And that's what I thought I will interest all of you people in to enter into this one. The next one, please. If you have to produce a material, you have to do what is called separation process. There are only 3 types you can think of: separation, synthesis, transformation. But all these separation processes are like kitchen. You can imagine kitchen to be a metaphor. How many processes are there in kitchen? Hardly 10 or 15. Cutting, sauteing or steam or whatever it is. We have a set of raw materials. But the number of dishes are too many, the way I showed you in the sectors. So it is a recipe is the knowledge which converts it. So if you look at it, these are the processes that is available. Blue is what we take it as a ore or whatever it is. And what is red is all the high temperature in air or in inert atmospheres. And whatever is all, we are trying to separate. If you have to separate, you have to have 2 phases: liquid or gas, solid, solid, liquid, liquid. So you are moving the material between them. So this is known. So that means what? The processes are known. Unfortunately, we don't have the raw material. Whereas the products we are importing. Now, if you look at the kitchen metaphor, imagine if you are every day ordering everything by Swiggy, and somewhere outside the country it has to come from. And you know how to cook, you have a kitchen, everything, but it's not happening because we don't have the raw material. The next one, please. Our problems are becoming bigger because mining has been going on for centuries, right? So the acids, the ores are becoming finer, leaner, and our energy intensity is becoming higher, and water intensity or water stress, as we call it, is becoming more stressful. So we need new solutions which reduce chemicals, energy, and water. We want zero discharge. This is our target. The next one, please. Next one. So this is what I would like to advise youngsters. Whatever you do, be it your personal life or problems or aspirations, or even do a SWOT analysis. Learn to do a SWOT analysis. So what is our strength? Our strength is we are very strong in IT, programming, all these things we say. Actually, we are very strong in processes. We can process anything. We have the process knowledge. We have some things which are favorable to us in our beach sands. And many of these things, we can make it operational within 2 years. The moment we have access to a raw material inside India or outside India, within 2 to 3 years, we can make a plant. We have that much of strength and capability. So we have to convert the capability into capacity. But our weakness is what? Whole line, half of important non-ferrous transition metals is not available to us, and they are going into space, defense, and not nuclear. Nuclear, we are okay. And we do a wrong way. We have been doing it. We are doing serially from lab scale to a product to a plant. So we have to do something faster. So we need a mission mode and systems approach. We have been very successful in space missions. We have been very successful whenever we took a mission mode and a systems approach, we have been successful in India. The next one, please. Next one, yeah. That also gives us an opportunity. The whole world is suffering. So it is not that we are alone. So because of that, we are also part of a 13-nation key materials summit. So we have this. So what we find is that we have to use this problem itself as an opportunity, and we can transform. And we can become a leadership or role itself we can achieve. Because I'm interacting with Brazil, Canada, South Africa, Australia, which are all very mineral rich. In fact, they have not very much advanced in many of these things, converting their own raw materials into products. It is not. They have everything went to China, unfortunately, and they were processing it. So, but there are challenges, and I feel that those challenges can be addressed. And you just see only 3 lines there. One in the challenges. We need to produce specialty chemicals. I always wondered why we have not done that. When we are separating, we need ligands. We take it into solution, and then we start moving it. So I've started a mission on that. We need to do concurrent engineering. As we are doing things in the lab, we have to start thinking about a plant, not in a serial mode. And we have to handle multiple feeds. We can't build a plant for just only one source. So we identified these. But when we do all these things, we are also to be aware of a threat. I make a lithium battery source line, but I might end up with sodium sulfur as a disruptor. I will do a rare earth magnet-based motor, but I'll get very soon, by 2030, magnet-free motors or rare earth-free magnet motors. So the threat also has to be understood. That's how we are to do technology. The next one. So we come down primary, secondary, and tertiary, or the source of materials. That means we are given away our market. That means a lot of products are lying with us. Because a lot of products are lying with us, we will have end of life, which is an urban mine. So it is no longer a mine under the ground, it is a mine sitting in the city. So how much of small fingertip size lithium battery cells, all of them we would have thrown into the garbage. We can't throw anything into the garbage. We need a system itself. Next one, please. Yeah, now I go to solution now. Next one, I would have given a blank slide, yeah. Yes, this is what I have described. Our national scenario is we are very good in iron ore, bauxite, beach sands. We have significant reserves in rare earth and titanium. We are very bad in others. And whatever is available as part of a primary system, we are not taking it out. And new materials like carbon-based, ceramics, high-grade silicon, solar, etc., we still have to go to plant level in many of these things. The next one, please. We have to rush through a little bit. The next one. Okay, so what do? What we are saying is we take it set by set. Because why we are saying set by set is, if the source is available already in our own primary metal with aluminum fellows or copper fellows or other things, why don't we incentivize them and take it out, like anode mud, slag, flue, dust tailing, etc. The whole thing that is sitting in that red can be taken out from copper circuit. The other one, germanium we need, lead zinc. Gallium, vanadium is in aluminum. So we need a different strategy. Next one, please. Yeah, the next one. The set 2 is available, titanium, zirconium. We will not worry about it. The next one. Yeah, this is a headache, big headache. We are now talking about jet engine. And for jet engine, we need nickel, cobalt. I mean, all of this we need. And we don't have anything. So we need a solution. And so we said, okay, why don't we tie up with Africa, other countries, process a little bit there, bring it here, put up a plant. So instead of starting research, I've started looking at how to put a plant first. So this is what we mean by systems approach. We start with the output and then work back towards input, rather than being an input-constrained output. The next one. Yeah, so you would have seen this in the newspaper a lot. Sir, we have a lot of scrap. We have tungsten, alloy scrap, battery waste. Everybody is putting all of those things. But this can cater to about 20% and not more. And from this, I have to go to aerospace grade. It is difficult. So 10 to 20% we are saying it has to be for strategic purposes. So we say that change the policy so that we can import any scrap, any concentrate from anywhere, incentivize it, have government-to-government deals so that we do something there and something here and get a win-win situation. The next one. Yeah, rare earth, I've been on it for two decades, even when it was not fancy, when there was no demand. So that is what we mean. That is, we have to distinguish capability from capacity. We will not have market today. Chinese prices will be low. We cannot compete. So no business entity will come and put up a plant, even if we have knowledge or technology. So what we have to do, we have to keep it alive as capability in a pilot, come what may. So the capability, we kept it alive, and that is why today we are able to do this one. The next one, please. I talked about this. This is very important, often ignored. This is a co-plant that we have to do. Everything comes from carbon and hydrogen and electrons. That's the base. All the things that you see in the whole periodic table is coming from the top 3. That top 3 produces others, which produces a whole lot of other things. So in other words, we need a calcium plant, magnesium plant. We just cannot talk about a titanium plant without a magnesium plant. So we cannot leave gaps. That's the whole idea that I was trying to say. We need a lot of hydrogen because hydrogen is also produced. And hydrogen again comes from electrons, electrolysis. And therefore, it is again carbon or renewable energy. Next one, please. Let's go. We have understood this. This is what I described, capability versus capacity. We have to keep the knowledge alive as capability in pilots. So can we move on? Can we move on? These are all examples. How do we do each set? I have given as a, so that we get out of the catch-22 situation, so that we start putting up plans right away rather than working on only R&D at a lower level. Can we go the next one? Yeah, this is an important slide. So we have to fight our battles. So we have to choose our battles to fight. So everybody cannot work on everything, right? So we start partitioning our resources. If you look at the x-axis, it's resource inputs. Knowledge input, facilities, and finance. The y-axis is impact. That means, impact means can we go to the plant level and what is important. If you see on the right-hand side corner, I've given carbon, which is carbon means engineered carbon and high-end carbon materials. Hydrogen, I think there is a very big mission now. And lithium, sulfur, sodium ion, so that the next generation energy devices. You see the middle one, blue and green. We have resources for some of them, we don't have resources for. But that's the most important thing that we have to address for the country. So the top one we have addressed in the last 20 years, and the middle one now, the blue one, is what we are now trying to do in the next 2 to 3 years. In the next 2 to 3 years, whatever you see in blue, niobium, tantalum, ori, tungsten, cobalt, nickel, we have to reach the plant level very fast. And we have no choice. And that's what the processes I have said and the policy. This is the game plan that we have. And all the other things is not very important. The black one that is on the right, germanium, indium, etc., are required for the electronic industry. But the volume is less. But if we can get it out as a gallium nitride, it's even more expensive, or as expensive as gold. The next one, please. So what is the solution? We can't go and say explore more and try to open a mine, extract, go, no go. It will take years. And we need a solution in 2 to 3 years. So we have advocated what is called multi-material and multiple extraction under one roof very fast in next 3 years. So we have picked up about 4 or 5, and we said we will rush through it. Okay, the next one, please. So what are we? I come from this place, Non-Ferrous Materials Technology Center. About 30 years ago, early 90s, I was returning to India, and I joined my alma mater, IIT Kanpur. And I was hijacked within 1 day by Dr. Kalam and Dr. Arunachalam. I said, can you come down to Hyderabad? We will set up a tech center. Not a laboratory, not a company, but a tech center. Tech center means you do translational work leading to high TRL. That means your minimum deliverable itself has to be a pilot plant. And that's what we worked. And like genes, I asked myself in all the discussions, when you say a technology center, how is it different from a laboratory? Okay, the first answer we got was, we have to be delivering at higher technology levels. That's not enough. We have to deliver a product and a plant. So we cannot be just on a material and a process, but you have to deliver a product and a plant. So if you have to deliver a product and a plant, we need other disciplines, not just materials. So like 3 genes, we created 3 verticals: advanced materials processing, engineering design, electronics and control. This is a minimal gene that you require. And over 25 years, when we worked, we created a lot of products and pilot plants, and we are self-financing, 100% self-financing from day one, because whatever we produce is needed, and therefore there is a positive feedback loop. So all the materials could go to aerospace, aeronautical, energy devices, biomedical, and whatnot. So from material to a product, or in a submarine or an aircraft, whatever it is. The next one, please. So for that you need, this is a space terminology I borrowed. You have to define a mission, and a mission is always a system with a performance. This is how the space people define it. And wherever required, you have to have a special purpose vehicle for the mission. You cannot say that existing labs will come together and do something. We can give a consortia type call, but we have to finally end it in a mission. And that is what it is. And for that, we have to develop leadership capability. who can translate to TRL9 in their life. So that is what it is. The next one, please. Yes. Technology readiness level is what is talked. TRL 1, 2, 3 to 9. I will urge the students to go through two things: Bloom's taxonomy of knowledge and technology readiness level. You all can Google it out right now if you want. You'll have gradations of that. But everybody defines TRL 3 to 7 or 8 as a volumetric growth. You do 1 kg, you go big. But here we define it the other way around. We need a critical path. I think when you listen to the previous speakers, how many jigs, meandering that you have to do, how many other disciplines you have to bring in. So each one brings in a TRL 3. Actually, a TRL 7 or 8, we will take it as an integral sigma of TRL 3s. So we need a multidisciplinary team. The human resource is different. It is not that A will do something. You have to bring somehow all of them under one mission and deliver it. And innovations will happen. So innovations will happen in TRL 3. So we should know how to plug and play it. So that was our trick. The next one, please. So if you look at it, in the origin of wealth, Adam Smith wrote more or less an equilibrium, no? Demand, supply. If you look at it in a nonlinear systems, any one perturbation in one corner can destroy the system itself. So the nonlinear economics is what we have to apply. So systems approach says that, okay, we start with the final output that we want and find an adaptive walk, a critical path. So we understand what are all the TRL 3s we bring in and we move to TRL 9. But the random jump is a breakthrough. So we can't wait for breakthroughs, but we put the path in such a way that whenever an innovation happens, we should be able to plug and play it. So if I have a plant or a pilot plant or something, anywhere I get a new chemical comes with a high separation ratio, I should plug it in. I should be able to use a microwave or a sonicator or a high energy system. I should be able to plug and play it. So in other words, a TRL, which is what we call as a combining the adaptive water random jump, is what we adopted. The next one. So we go full length, material, process, product, plan. So this is in the news, rare earth magnet thing, thanks to China, US, trade wars and whatnot. So what I would urge the students to do is that you would have started with one area as a chemical engineer in a process, or a material scientist or a mechanical engineer in a design. But we make a team and we produce it. So I'll finish off in the next two slides. The next one. Again, you do the SWOT analysis, and we found out that, next one. I think we are running out of time. She's moving, so yeah. What we do is this. We have three risks. The three risks we had is, we need the raw material supply chain. We need process know-how, plant and machinery. That is the second risk. Third is, we have to meet the Chinese price. Now, these three risks, if you have, will any bank give you money to put a plant? First, they say, de-risk this. Do you have a supply chain? Do you have process know-how, plant and machinery? And can you meet the imported price? Now, if I have to get a endpoint out, I have to solve all of them, and that's what we did. We said that, look, we will build our own equipments as much as possible and make versus buy. The second thing we said is, our indigenous raw material availability will cater to 30%. So we'll encourage companies to go outside India or whatever it is, get more assets, tie-ups. Mind you, even before technology can be transferred or done, we have to do this. Third one is, at what sizing, if you have reduced the cost in plant and machinery, if you have our own assets of raw materials access, we would have come down. So I have to come down by 40 to 50% in the cost of raw material and plant and machinery to compete with China. And minimum we require is 3,000 tons to 5,000 tons. If we produce output, we can compete with China anywhere. See, today we are asked to even put up a plant in North America. It is not that we are importing technology. Now, we in rare earth manner, we can go out of the country and do it. The next one, please. So this is what we had, the whole line. We were doing it for the last 20 years, and we are able to finish it, all the 13 steps into a full plant. Next one. Yes, we brought in frugal manufacturing, we value added, and we reduced the raw material cost by 50% by our own.
The next one. This is actual plant, and we created a new company as a special purpose vehicle, and will produce the plant now. And we'll be able to go up to 5,000 tons by 2030. We will not have a problem. We will solve the problem because the raw material supply chain is tied up. The next one, keep going on. These are all the grades that can be produced, not one grade. This is just to give you a flavor that so many grades have to be produced. The next one. Yeah, these are the innovations. You would have heard two elements, dysprosium and terbium, are not easily available. So the aim is to reduce them to 0.5% so that a process innovation could be done and we could achieve that one at the industrial scale. The next one. Yeah. You tell me the time I have so that I can. Sorry, sir? 1 minute. Thank you. All right. So I'll take 1 more minute. So you see those two green we have finished. Oxide to metal to magnet and magnet to drives. Now we have to go to feedstock. This is what I said, one of the things that we have to solve. The next one, slide. So if you have to go to 20,000 tons of magnets, 5,000 to 8,000 tons of magnets, we need 20,000 tons of magnets eventually. We need to imagine the level of raw material that we require. Our beach sands cannot supply it. So what are we going to do? The next one, please. We said we need to augment the supply chain itself. Now, one side is scaling up the plant to produce more magnets. The other side is to think on day one, how do we augment it? So I need concentrate to metal or oxide augmentation. The next one. Yeah, I'll stop with this slide maybe. Where is it available, even if you want to augment it? That's the question, right? And it is available in Myanmar near China border, okay? That is not a good solution for us, even though we can work it into some extent. But if you see the coal mines, in between coal seam, you will find clay. And that clay is thrown out. And we analyzed the clay all over the country, and we found that they can host the rare earths to some extent. And some of them will host more. That is what is called ionic clay, which is seen in Myanmar and South China. And one more place now it is available is Brazil. That is why we urged MEA and MOM to tie up with Brazil as early as possible. And we should be able to give technology, set up plant there, and get it. So we should not only be just looking at getting metal or something like that. We should develop technologies and be bold enough to put the plant in their place. The other thing what we said was, okay, we have our beach sands themselves can sustain us. We have 30 million tons. We can do a lot. So, but what we need to do is that we need to have states and the private sector coming into it. So that is what we call as the monazite residues still are not taken out. And the last but not the least is 25% of the magnet you make will come back as reverts internally inside the plant itself. So you have to produce 30% more. So we need to recycle also. But magnet recycling will not come back from motor or an MRI or a windmill very fast. It will take 15 years. So it is not like battery. So this is what is a challenge, and we have started a multi-material feedstock. Can we rush through and go to the last slide, please, if you can? Can you go down? Yeah, stop it. Can you go back? Go back. Stop it. This again, what all you can take. You can take tin slag. You can take end of life of magnets. You can take clay, phosphogypsum. So all over the world, we have analyzed it, and we will be encouraging the industries to go and set up raw material acquisition processing there itself. So in other words, I stop here because of time. What I would like to summarize is this. A systems view means you cannot work only in one small specialization of viewers. You have to think of a full supply chain to the product to a business. Therefore, you need a multidisciplinary team. And systems approach always says that you start from the output, not the input, not your specialization. So we need people who are technology, knowledge integrators as leaderships to take it. The second thing is we need a mission, specific. We might need 100 missions, but we need a mission. Mission allows us a focus. And that is what has done well in India. And what I would like to tell the next generation youngsters is, I have not gone into AI. We have to capture knowledge as we do it, not take the data afterwards and then try to massage it. We have to do it. See that we have to become, humans have to become like AI. We are trying to say that we are making AI like human. Humans make mistakes again and again. AI doesn't. It makes it only once, right? So we can't afford to make mistakes. We can't afford to miss this critical materials revolution. We have missed the other revolutions. So we intelligently do it now, and we boldly go towards plant very fast in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's my dream. We finished all the cryo engine, biomedical, aircraft things, and so many things, I think, for which we have been recognized and conferred with a Padma Award. But what I have spoken today is not of the past, from past, present to the future. So this is the future. Very seriously, next 3 to 5 years, we have to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful address and for highlighting the crucial interface between innovation, technology development, and national growth. And you have rightly said, the critical minerals and materials are the future. You have also emphasized upon SWOT analysis, which is very important for the students to analyze their strength and enhance their strength, and then also analyze their weakness and work upon those weaknesses. In not only in their personal lives, but also on the projects which they are taking up. And your another advice was to go and look into the Bloom's taxonomy framework and TRL readiness level. So I request all the students to go and look into those things and read about these. And to take the lectures forward, I would now have the honor to invite Shri Shashi Shekhar Vempati, co-founder of Deep Tech for Bharat Foundation and former CEO of Prasar Bharati. He has been conferred with Padma Shri this year for literature and education. Education is the base foundation for the development of youth. Shri Vempati is widely recognized for his transformative leadership in modernizing Doordarshan and Akashvani with reforms spanning public broadcasting, science communication, educational media, and audience research. Through the AI for India initiative, he is actively strengthening India's AI ecosystem and also serves on the board of Bharat Gen Technology Foundation at IIT Bombay. Many of you must have heard about it, which is contributing to India's sovereign AI mission. He chairs the Apex Committee of Science and Technology Communication of DST and the UGC expert committees on educational media, while advising global broadcasting standard bodies and serving on several academic and research boards. May I now invite Shri Shashi Shekhar Vempati to kindly deliver his lecture.
Good morning, namaskar. The respected Principal Scientific Advisor, Professor Ajay Soodji, Secretary DST, Dr. Abhay Karandikar, President INSA, Shekhar Mandeji, all the distinguished scientists, fellow speakers, fellow Padma awardees, and all of you science and technology enthusiasts. It is not easy a task to follow two very distinguished scientists, because I'm not a scientist. I'm also not an inventor. So I'm standing here as someone who has played a very small role in terms of facilitating the journey of technology. So I'm here to talk about a new disruptive technology called direct-to-mobile broadcasting. And in the process of talking about its journey, I'll try to bring out some of the aspects in terms of what are the challenges, what does it take to take an idea from the lab to the market. Can we have the presentation? So the broader theme today is Viksit Bharat, and of course also the central theme of the role of women in science to achieve this vision of Viksit Bharat. So while I describe this whole journey of direct-to-mobile broadcasting, I'd also like to acknowledge that one of the primary broadcast engineers who was championing this technology at Prasar Bharati was also a woman, Mrs. Anuradha Agarwal. She's not here today, but I thought I should bring it up right up front. I was told that I had to speak for 30 minutes, and coming from the world of technology, management, and corporate, 30 minutes is a long time, so I thought I better have some slides, and rather than just doing it as a monologue. So in the interest of full disclosure, I had to use AI to generate this slides last night. So I used Google's Notebook LLM I fed my speech notes, and it produced a very brilliant presentation. All of you will appreciate it. So one of the key learnings for me over the years is that the journey of an idea from the lab to the market, going all the way from a proof of concept to making it a potential commercial product, is a very complex and very challenging journey. And we saw that in both the earlier presentations today, be it Drishti, be it the whole journey with rare earth metals and minerals. So we have to think out of the box, and we have to think of different ways of achieving the goal. And once it is a disruptive technology, the challenges are even more, because it is not only trying to get the technology to work, but it's also managing the entire politics around it, the entire complexities around it. So what is direct-to-mobile broadcasting? So before I get very specific about direct-to-mobile broadcasting, I'll paint the picture a bit about the history of broadcasting itself, as we understand it today. So when I had become the CEO of Prasar Bharati in 2017, I came with very little background in broadcasting because I was working largely in the information technology field. And it was a learning experience for me to understand how broadcasting evolved over the decades. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to visit the All India Radio studios on Sansad Marg. There's a small section there. It's a museum. It has some of the earliest broadcasting equipment on display. And one of the displays there is actually a handwritten note by Dr. C.V. Raman when he had visited All India Radio. And the note says, "This was wireless before it was born." And above that, he had scribbled a partial differential equation. So it's a very interesting artifact. I think if you get a chance to go to All India Radio, you should definitely take a look at it. I had a photo of it somewhere, but I couldn't put it into this presentation. But I'll try and share it on social media. So one of the things that I learned, trying to understand how broadcasting in India evolved, is that it has a history which predates our independence. In fact, it goes back all the way to the 1920s and 30s, when there were experiments on shortwave radio transmissions happening in different parts of India, in Mysore, in Calcutta. Some of the initial work on shortwave was actually happening out of India. And while digitizing some of All India Radio's archives, we discovered the first radio broadcast. The audio is still available, and in fact, we put it on YouTube. It's a recording by Dr. C. Rajagopalachari, who is also India's first Governor General. So while radio has had a long history in the British era, it also played a very important role in the independence movement as well. You had Netaji using shortwave radio broadcasts out of Myanmar, Singapore, and Japan to rally the Azad Hind Fauj, the Indian National Army. So over the decades, radio evolved from medium wave to FM radio. We went from large vacuum tubes to being able to listen to FM radio on your mobile phone. where there's an FM receiver. In that sense, direct to mobile broadcasting is the same idea that can you receive any kind of broadcast signal on your mobile device. It could be audio, it could be video, it could be text, it could be data, it could be anything. So that is the broad idea of what is direct to mobile broadcasting. Now, if you look at the history of television in India, television came much later, post-independence. In the 1960s, it was largely experimental at All India Radio. In the 1970s, Doordarshan was born as a dedicated television service. But many of my generation and the generation before me grew up in the world of what is called the rooftop antenna, where Doordarshan would transmit TV signals to the rooftop antenna, and then we would receive it on a TV. And this was largely a black and white transmission world till perhaps the mid-80s when color transmission started. And then you mostly got to watch just one channel for a few hours in the evening. So that was the kind of television services you had in the 1980s. And this picture changed in 1990s. And I think one of the key aspects of how India adopts technology is this, what we call the leapfrog phenomenon. If you look at television, the world over, it went from analog terrestrial television to what is called digital terrestrial television, and then to cable, satellite, and the internet. In India, we kind of skipped a step in between. We went directly from analog TV to satellite and cable. And this is very similar to what happened in the case of telephony and internet, right? Where we directly jumped from landlines, a very low penetration of landlines, to hundreds of millions of people using mobile phones, skipping the intermediate steps. While in the rest of the world, you had terrestrial broadband penetration very high. In India, it was largely people consuming mobile data, 4G, 5G, on their mobile phones. Same thing with UPI and cashless payments. Again, we leapfrogged directly to mobile cashless payments instead of going through the whole credit card era. So that is kind of a very distinctive pattern about how India has adopted technology. And we saw that in the case of television, that we directly jumped to satellite and cable, where we had hundreds of channels and so on. And as a result of this, while the rest of the world took this path of digital terrestrial TV, we were already in the satellite era. Now that poses a very interesting challenge in terms of why we need direct to mobile and why did we even go down this path. So to understand this, we need to look at what was the picture in 2017, right? So you had this scenario where Doordarshan was operating a large number of analog terrestrial TV transmitters. And there was no clear path for what is the way forward. In parallel, you already had satellite TV, which had already taken off in the mid-2000s. And we had created this platform called DD Free Dish, which is a free-to-air, direct-to-home satellite platform, where you can get hundreds of channels. And the reason why DTH took off, while digital terrestrial TV did not, has a very important lesson for what it takes for a new technology to be successful. When you look at it very closely, it becomes very clear that the absence of an ecosystem is what makes the difference. So in the case of DTH, you had an entire ecosystem of set-top boxes, you had satellite TV channels ready to provide the content. So all of the elements that are necessary for a new technology to be successful were there. While in the case of digital terrestrial, you had lacked devices, you were stuck with only Doordarshan being the content provider. So that did not create that virtuous cycle of adoption. And as a result, digital terrestrial TV did not really have a clear roadmap going forward. And this was despite several attempts by Doordarshan to try different ways of trying to get DTT off the ground. And one of the key lessons that I learned when I became the CEO at that time was how do you break this, quagmire? How do you get out of this quagmire? How do you break this stranglehold where it's a chicken and egg, a sort of catch-22, where how do you create the necessary enablers for the ecosystem to take off? And without that, how will the technology be successful? How will you achieve, mass-scale technology adoption? So this slide talks about the phenomenon that I just now described, where technology cannot succeed unless you have an enabling ecosystem. And in this case, it was about availability of devices, availability of an entire ecosystem of private partners, all of them having to come together. Now, so in 2017, when we were looking at what to do with terrestrial TV broadcasting, it became clear that the more than 1,000 TV transmitters that Doordarshan was operating had practically no viewers. And interestingly, the spectrum in which these transmitters were operating were largely in the ultra-high frequency UHF bands, 400 to 600 megahertz band. So the question before Prasar Bharati was what to do with this legacy system in a scenario where consumers had already leapfrogged not only to satellite and cable, but were largely streaming content on mobile phones, using OTT platforms. On the other hand, you had this worldwide scenario where no country has phased out terrestrial TV, because every nation looks at terrestrial TV as an important fallback, a very strategic national capability. In fact, even during the recent Ukraine-Russia conflict, one of the primary targets was the TV tower in the capital of Ukraine, Kiev. So terrestrial TV is important strategically, but then the consumer adoption has already shifted. So how do you address this? So one of the challenges before the board was that how do we balance the strategic interests of the country so that we preserve terrestrial broadcasting? At the same time, how do we come up with a technology which is relevant to the people and has a future roadmap? So while we took a very tough decision, thanks to the support of various board members to phase out the analog terrestrial TV system, the question remained that what is the alternative technology roadmap and what do we do with it? Now the UHF spectrum that we freed up by phasing out analog terrestrial TV contributed to valuable spectrum in the 600 megahertz range for 4G and 5G. But there was another band of about 112 megahertz, which is 470 megahertz to 582, which was worldwide still continued to be reserved for terrestrial broadcasting. And that kind of gave us a window of opportunity to look for a new technology where can we bring broadcast signals to mobile phones directly by using this band of 112 megahertz, 470 to 582. Now, if you look at mobile phone, the idea of bringing broadcast to mobile phones is not new, right? Because you already had FM radio, which was already being listened to on mobile phones. Even Doordarshan earlier experimented with what is called DVB T1, DVB T2, DVB H, a whole family of standards of television broadcasting out of Europe, where they were trying to see how you can do mobile broadcasting. The problem was all of these standards were designed for fixed television reception. They were not really optimized for mobile reception and also accounting for different scenarios where you could be indoors, you could be outdoors. It has to work in all of those scenarios. Interestingly, around this time when we were toying with this whole idea of direct-to-mobile, there were some experiments going on in the TV white space area. And this is where I think serendipity or destiny, as you might call it, was at work, where we were lucky to be introduced to Professor Abhay Karandikar and his lab in IIT Bombay, where a lot of this work was going on. And I distinctly remember making a visit to his lab at IIT Bombay in late 2017, where we had whiteboarded certain ideas on what a direct-to-mobile future might look like for broadcasting to mobile devices. So you already moved from a problem statement to a possible idea to looking at possible technology solution. And this marked the beginning of a multi-year journey. Most ideas kind of fail at the stage of escaping the lab and coming into the real world. We saw it with the earlier presentation as well, where I was very pleased to see that, start with the output, start with, what you want, and then work backwards. In some sense, the journey of D2M was also that we were clear what is the end state that we wanted mobile phones in every consumer's hand capable of receiving broadcast signals. What does it take to, put the right technology in place for it? But then there were a number of challenges to, take this from the drawing board, from that whiteboard to reality. First was the legacy issue, right? Because the broadcast engineering community at Doordarshan was so heavily invested in DVB standards that it was very difficult for them to entertain the idea that we should take a different path, something where they break away from that legacy of decades, despite its limitations. So that is the first challenge, that how do you rally your internal organization to embrace change? The second was a lack of culture of innovation and experimentation. Because in a public body like Doordarshan or All India Radio, the culture is very rigid. It's very procedural, rule-driven. That they're not very. It's not very easy to get them to experiment and do innovations, try different things, where the outcome is uncertain. So I think that was the second big challenge, which was how do you bring about this culture shift? The third was, of course, funding and financing. Till about 2018, most of this broadcast infrastructure was publicly funded by the government, and several thousands of crores had already been spent on terrestrial broadcasting. So at that point in time, the Department of Expenditure had this very clear stipulation that you can't spend any more money on digital terrestrial television because the audiences are not there. Nobody's watching this system, and there is no clear roadmap. So what they said was that any new technology that you come up with has to be self-sustaining. Again, very similar to the example that we saw in the previous presentation, where you talked about a model which is completely financially self-sustaining. The fourth challenge was a lack of clarity on policy, because today in India you have two very different regulatory regimes. You have one regime for broadcasting, which is to fixed televisions and radio sets, and then you have a different regulatory regime for mobile phones, which is telecom, 4G, 5G, and so on. Now, when you have a technology like D2M, which is very disruptive, it is breaking through this regulatory silo because it is overlapping across three very different jurisdictions: the world of broadcasting signals, the world of telecommunications, and then the world of electronics, consumer electronics. So how do you come up with a policy which navigates these three very different landscapes? So to get around that, at that time in 2018, 2019, we proposed to the government that we will draw experts from various IITs like Professor Karandikar and others to look at what this roadmap would look like. Internally also, the organization started warming up to this idea that they need to do something. And to them, it was an existential issue because for decades, the broadcasting engineers in India had built this sort of empire of terrestrial transmitters, be it on the radio side, be it on the TV side. But then with the manner in which consumers have shifted completely to mobile devices and smartphones, it was an existential question to the broadcasting community as well, engineering community, that what is their future as broadcast engineers? So they also realized that unless they bring about that cultural change and start innovating and start thinking about how can we bring broadcast signals to mobile phones, they may also become redundant and irrelevant as a discipline. So finally, in 2019, we, at the Prasar Bharati board level, took a decision that we will collaborate with IIT Kanpur. Thankfully, by then, Professor Abhay Karandikar was there as the director. And we said, let us look at a roadmap for next generation broadcasting where we can deliver broadcast signals directly to mobile phones. And unfortunately, within a few months, COVID hit, and that entire momentum kind of slowed down. But it was also serendipity, again, that while we were trying to figure out how to take this direct-to-mobile project forward, a startup in Bangalore called Sankhya Labs had come up with what was India's first indigenously designed fabless chips for software-defined radio. And their chip, which was released sometime late 2018, early 2019, was capable of supporting multiple communication technologies, be it telecom, be it satellite, and of course, broadcasting. So it was an interesting convergence of various events that we had this MOU signed with IIT Kanpur. We had Sankhya Labs, which came up with this Indian chip. And then in the US and Korea, a new television standard was being experimented with called ATSC3, which was capable of transmitting not just video, not just audio, but data and any kind of information on the broadcast spectrum. So the idea was, can we look at this new standard? Can we look at this Indian chip, bring it all together, and build a working proof of concept for D2M? So that was the effort between 2020, 2021, despite all the challenges that COVID had posed. Now, thankfully, by about the end of 2021, the proof of concept came together, where we were able to show that by embedding this chip into a phone or through a dongle, you could receive broadcast signals onto a mobile device. And you could do it in different contexts. The other interesting learning was that unlike the traditional TV architecture, where you had one tall TV tower like in Pitampura, or you would have seen in several cities, this required, the direct-to-mobile system required a combination or a hybrid architecture where you had to combine different things like a tall tower along with cellular base stations, all of them coming together. So all of this was, once the proof of concept was done, a white paper was published along with IIT Kanpur in 2022. That was around the time my role as a direct facilitator of this journey ended. But thankfully, the momentum of D2M continued with the efforts by Prasar Bharati and IIT Kanpur. So the proof of concept became a pilot in 2023, where number of sites were active in Delhi. In 2024, IIT Kanpur went out of its comfort zone to prepare a very detailed report. What is the business case for rolling out D2M in this hybrid architecture? And interestingly, during WAVE's conference in 2025, a number of devices were showcased where you could embed this chip and make it work on a feature phone, make it work on a smartphone, and most interestingly on a laptop, where potentially you could deliver educational content without being dependent on the internet in different languages using an AI model running on the laptop. So a combination of D2M plus AI could enable a whole bunch of new scenarios. So all of this kind of created a global context for a technology where we can not only create it in India, but perhaps potentially even take it to other parts of the world. And that's where the Brazil example is interesting, because Brazil has recently adopted ATSC 3.0. So there's a potential opportunity for global export from India based on a tech stack that's developed in India. Why is this important? I think it's important for the sovereign capability that we can directly reach citizens during a crisis on their mobile phones by getting them authentic information. And we've seen that during Operation Sindoor, during COVID, just the vast amount of fake news and misinformation. So this can be tackled through direct-to-mobile. You can deliver education at scale, deal with disasters, and more importantly, the demands that we are placing on the telecom networks can be reduced, especially during live events like an IPL match and so on. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So let me conclude with how this establishes a blueprint for how we can leverage deep tech to build a completely sovereign, full stack solution for a Viksit Bharat based on a designed in India chip, all the way to a platform that India serves at population scale for billions of citizens. I think DTM proves that India can not just create a standard, but also adopt it at scale and make it a template for global adoption. We can show the world the way. And this can be something that's applicable for other areas as well, where you are thinking of a full sovereign stack like AI and quantum computing and so on. So with that, once again, thank you to DST for this opportunity to address all of you, and very best wishes on a National Science Day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your compelling insights on science communication technology and role of digital ecosystem in shaping an inclusive and innovative India. Your first statement about making the slides using AI gives us strength that AI is there to complement us, not is a threat to us. So that is very, very important. So with that, I would request Professor Ajay Kumar Sood, Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, for his remarks.
Thank you. I know we are running behind schedule. I'll be very brief. First of all, it was very inspiring to hear all the three stories, all the three travelogues of discovery and implementation on ground of what has been done in R&D, as well as the last talk on really implementing a new idea, not a new idea, but really a disruptive idea in communication. So my congratulations once again to all the three awardees for their very tremendous work. So we heard, I will not just repeat it, we heard how Drishti has made a difference in our aviation sector, how critical minerals, looking at for example, rare earth permanent magnets, we need not have sleepless nights. There is a solution, and of course for other critical minerals, and the new way of communicating, which is really for the masses in some sense. If you see, direct to mobile can really make a difference. And I can only say that things have moved forward. Shashiji, as you know, that in the recent meetings, more steps have been taken. And in 19 cities, I understand, it will be rolled out sooner than later. And it will be good to see that India designed chip and implementing it will be in place. And it is so fortuitous that we have one of the architects of this, Abhay Karandikar, amongst us. So Abhay, thank you very much for all your pioneering work. And I don't think you planned it that it will be announced when you will be Secretary DST. I think there are a lot of, it's very nice because he led this, as was mentioned, it's a very beautiful thing of combining the policy decision, the technology from the lab of Professor Karandikar, and our startup, Sankhya Lab, which is also very inspiring, and willingness to roll it out. So all the three players came together and had it and moved it forward. So I will not take more time, but only wish all the very best to all of you on this National Science Day, because we all realize that equitable India, as we envisage, is the only path for true progress. And the theme of this year's Science Day, namely Women in Science Catalyzing Viksit Bharat, is so very appropriate in our journey. So once again, thank you for coming on the Science Day function, and all the very best to you. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir, for your forward-looking conclusion of the entire National Science Day lectures. We now proceed to the felicitation of our distinguished speakers for the National Science Day 2026. May I request the honorable dignitaries to please grace the stage for the felicitations. Professor Ajay Sood, sir, Professor Shekhar Mande, Professor Abhay Karandikar, and Dr. Rashmi Sharma to felicitate our esteemed lecturers of today's Science Day 2026 for their valuable contributions. I call upon stage our first distinguished speaker for today, Dr. Shubha V. Iyengar, former distinguished scientist, CSIR, NAL. Congratulations, ma'am. I now call upon stage our second distinguished speaker for today, Dr. K. Bala Subramanian, Director, NFTDC. Congratulations, sir. I now call upon stage our third distinguished speaker for today, Shri Shashi Vempati, former CEO, Prasar Bharati. Thank you, sir. Next, may I request Professor Abhay Karandikar, sir, Secretary DST, to kindly felicitate Professor Ajay Kumar Sood for chairing the National Science Day 2026 lecture session. Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Rashmi Sharma to present the token of gratitude to Professor Shekhar Mande, President, Indian National Science Academy. I again request ma'am to please present the token of gratitude to Professor Abhay Karandikar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology. Thank you, distinguished guests. With this, we conclude the National Science Day lectures, and we will be beginning with our panel discussion shortly in a while. Thank you. Yes, so far. Thank you so much. Before we begin with our panel discussion session as our next venture, I request the audiovisual team to please play the video that was prepared on the auspicious occasion of National Science Day dedicated to Sir C.V. Raman.
When we look at light, most of us just see brightness. Sir Chandrasekhara Venkataraman saw questions. Born on November 7, 1888, in Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu, to Tamil parents, Father Chandrasekhara Iyer, a physics lecturer, and Mother Parvati Ammal, Raman filled his notebooks with waves, colors, and numbers. Long before he even stepped into a big laboratory, he excelled at St. Aloysius Anglo-Indian High School, then passed the BA degree examination at the age of 15 in 1904 at Presidency College, Madras, winning first place and gold medals in English and physics. He went ahead and took his MA degree in 1907 at the age of 18, again topping the class with record marks. Research in the modern sciences was quite unknown in India in those days. But young Raman, at the age of 16, and while still being a student in the MA class, was able to publish a paper in the prestigious journal, the Philosophical Magazine, London, thus delving into acoustics like violin vibrations and whispering galleries. Years later, in a lab at the Indian Association for Cultivation of Science in Kolkata, he continued exploring the world of light. Earlier, in 1921, while returning from England to India, aboard the SS Narkunda, he had pondered over why sea water sparkled deep blue. This led to his classic paper, The Molecular Scattering of Light in Water and the Color of the Sea. During one of his experiments, when C.V. Raman put light through a transparent medium like benzene, most rays scattered unchanged, but a tiny fraction emerged with a new color. It was indicated by slight shift in frequency. This happened because a few photons had interacted with the medium's molecules. Some photons gained energy from molecular vibrations while others lost energy. The interesting thing is that the amount of gain or loss depends upon the medium. This phenomenon, known as the Raman effect, was announced by him on the 28th of February 1928. For this outstanding discovery, he received the Nobel Prize in Physics in the year 1930. Raman's idea grew from chalkboard equations. He founded the Raman Research Institute in Bengaluru to pursue his scientific interests. Raman moved there immediately after his term at the Indian Institute of Science. He worked in this institute till his last breath. The Raman effect principle is used in drug development, material science, forensics, mineralogy, geology, archaeology conservation, and is thus useful in many aspects of our lives. Even the principle of the Raman effect is used on the Mars rover to analyze the Martian surface for organic compounds, mineralogy, and potential biosignatures. To commemorate Raman's path-breaking research, in the year 1987, the Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, declared the 28th of February as National Science Day. The aim was to motivate students to do science and make our lives better through innovations. The theme chosen for this year's National Science Day is Women in Science, Catalyzing Vikasit Bharat, which aptly reflects the national commitment to women-led science, innovation, and leadership. If one beam of light could change the world for C.V. Raman, what could your question change next? Jai Hind, Jai Vigyan, Jai Anusandhan.
Dear audience, we now move to an engaging and forward-looking segment of today's program, the panel discussion on science policy interface for catalyzing Viksit Bharat. This session aims to deliberate on the critical convergence of scientific research, policy frameworks, and innovation ecosystems required to accelerate India's journey towards a developed nation. To set the context for this important discussion, may I invite Professor Shekhar Chintamani Mande, President, Indian National Science Academy, to deliver the context-setting remarks.
Thank you, and greetings to all of you once again for the National Science Day. The context setting is not very difficult in this particular perspective. As you can see, the subject is the science policy interface for Viksit Bharat. Now, before we set the context, I would like to take you back to 1947 when India won her independence. And as we have read in the textbooks, or we have read in the history books, 1947 was one of the most extraordinary difficult times, especially for India, because India was just coming out of 1943 Bengal famine, in which roughly about 1 to 3 million people, about 10 to 30 lakh people had died because they did not get food to eat. There's a big catastrophic situation. Number two, India had seen one of the largest ever witnessed human migrations in human history. And not only a peaceful migration, but a very violent migration. So in the context of these two catastrophic events that happened in 1947, it would have been very difficult to see that India would progress so much as what we see today after about 78 or 79 years post-independence. And that has been possible solely because of science and technology and innovation alone. So whatever progress India has made is thanks to the community that we all represent here and how these principles have been implemented in the field to rid India of poverty to a large extent, to rid India of hunger to a large extent, and to also getting rid of many of the diseases and other aspects in this particular respect. And it has been possible once again by very well-formed policies and their implementation in the society since then. And that brings us to 2026. And today, as our Honorable Prime Minister has put a dream in front of all of us, that India be a progress nation by 2047, what we would fondly call as the Viksit Bharat. And as we have seen in the last 78, 79 years, that bringing India to this stage, science, technology, and innovation, indeed had played such a central role, and therefore it's no surprise that if India were to be a Viksit Bharat in 2047, science, technology, and innovation will continue to play equally important role for India's development. And for that, it's a need that our policies and their implementations in that direction are very strong. They are firmly rooted in our traditions and India's thinking. And also, they have the aspirations of the common people that by 2047, we all like to see India as a very affluent nation on par with other nations in the world. And that's exactly what we are going to discuss here today in the dialogue that what we have, the discussion that we have in terms of science policy and how the science policies would help us in taking us to Viksit Bharat. And we are joined by very distinguished panel members, and I welcome all of you to this particular panel discussion for that particular purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the context of the panel discussion today. We are privileged to have with us an esteemed panel of experts representing diverse dimensions of science, policy, and technology translation today with us. To moderate the entire session, we have with us Professor Indranil Manna, Vice President, Indian National Science Academy. I request sir to please come up on stage for moderating the session today. Warm welcome to you, sir. Today we have esteemed members of panelists, and we are indeed grateful for them to take out time from their busy schedule and marking this afternoon with their presence. I invite Professor Vivek Kumar Singh, Senior Advisor, Niti Aayog, to the stage. I call upon stage Professor Ranjana Agarwal, former Director, CSIR, National Institute of Science Communication and Policy Research. Our next panelist, Dr. Anjan Ray, former Director, CSIR, Indian Institute of Petroleum. Our next distinguished panelist, Dr. Jay Asundi, Executive Director, Center for Study of Science, Technology, and Policy. And our next panelist, Dr. Kusumita Arora, Director, Indo-German Science and Technology Center. Through this panel, we look forward to insightful perspectives on strengthening the science policy interface to drive innovation-led growth, evidence-based policymaking, and inclusive technological advancement for a vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. With this, I hand over the stage to Professor Indranil Manna to moderate the session. Over to you, sir.
Very good afternoon, and thank you, Ananna. President INSA, Dr. Mande, already has spelled out the context very nicely and aptly. Since independence, India has made enormous strides, and that was possible for multiple reasons, the importance of science being one of the foremost amongst them. Not just because today is National Science Day, not just because we keep celebrating every year the phenomenal discovery of Professor C.V. Raman, but because India now is looking ahead like never before. Before I actually start the panel, I would like to take the privilege of introducing our very eminent panelists today. We have Professor Vivek Kumar Singh, Senior Advisor, Niti Aayog. Professor Singh has been in the policy arena for a long time. Before joining Niti Aayog in 2025, he was a professor of computer science at the University of Delhi and served in significant academic administrative roles as head and dean of mathematical sciences. He held similar position at BHU and contributed to establishment of computing laboratories at South Asian University. He earned his bachelor's, master's, and PhD degrees from the University of Allahabad, and his research spans in the area of scientometrics, artificial intelligence, text analytics, and academic systems. He has a large number of publications and number of recognitions. So welcome, Professor Singh. We have Professor Ranjana Agarwal next to me. She's a former director of CSIR NISPER, a very distinguished chemist and science policy expert. Apart from being the director of NISPER, she earlier was a professor of chemistry and director of women research studies at the Studies Center at Kurukshetra University. She earned all her degrees from University of Kurukshetra and also had postdoctoral stints in very famous University of Cambridge, Trinity College Dublin, and University of Trieste. She has made significant contribution to green chemistry and evidence-based studies on technology readiness, rural livelihoods, and so on and so forth. Welcome, Professor Agarwal. Next is Dr. Anjan Ray, former director of CSIR IIP Dehradun. Dr. Ray, besides being the director of this very famous CSIR laboratory, he actually is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and then earned his MS and PhD from University of Pennsylvania. He held very important leadership roles in, before coming to India, he was at University of Texas, and then he served in the industry for a long time. His work connects or exploits the use of surfactants, biofuels, lubricants, polymers, energy sustainability. He's very passionate about research and translation and leading to commercialization. Welcome, Dr. Ray. We have Dr. J. Asundi, Executive Director, C-STEP, Center for Study of Science, Technology, and Policy in Bangalore. He is very keen to connect and bridge science, technology, and policy for sustainable development, covering energy transition, climate resilience, air quality, and AI for social impact. Since he has been associated with C-STEP since 2009, has worked for Center for Air Pollution Studies, AI for Social Impact. He holds a PhD degree from University of Carnegie Mellon University and served as a faculty member in the information system at the University of Texas, Dallas. His work is primarily related to integration of data modeling, evidence-based solutions to inform national energy, to create national policies on energy and climate policies. Welcome, Dr. Asundi. Next in the panel is another very eminent woman scientist leader in this country, Dr. Kusumita Arora, currently the director of Indo-German Science and Technology Center. She assumed this role only in September 2025 on deputation from NGRI Hyderabad, another very eminent CSIR laboratory. She took her first graduate and postgraduate degrees from IIT Kharagpur and then PhD from Osmania University and Freie University Berlin. A geophysicist by training with over 3 decades of experience, she specializes in Earth's geomagnetic field and subsurface geophysics, carries a large number of publications and received number of recognitions. Currently, she's the Vice President of the International Association of Geomagnetism and Aeronomy. Welcome, Dr. Arora. So, we are going to talk about science, technology, innovation policy, not just one specific aspect of science. But the constraint is the time. The organizers have devoted or allotted only 1 hour to us. We'll try to do our best. And for the benefit of the audience, we have requested the organizers to flash the question as we move on so that you know exactly the context in which one of the panelists would be responding. And again, in the interest of time, we have decided that not all panelists would respond to all the questions, all the issues we are going to discuss. And we have identified based on the expertise and background, who should respond to what question. So I would straight away begin, but would like to make some initial remarks to bring home the context of the panel. I'm going to state, Dr. Mande made a very nice reference to the history of modern India or independent India, and in fact, making reference to the Bengal famine and the huge burden of partition and so on. And he made it very clear that how science played a role to make India from a starving nation to a food surplus nation today, a nation where healthcare system has come a long way so that the average lifetime today is better than the world average. a historical fact, not history, is that India, in the Common Era, for the first 1700 years, nearly 2000 years, used to be one of the richest, if not the richest nation on earth. Nearly 25 to 27% of the world's GDP, global GDP, came from India. And India and China accounted for more than 50%. Even today, India is a mighty economy, all of us know. With 4.3 trillion US dollar economy, India is placed fourth in nominal and third in purchase power parity terms. India also happens to be the largest and the youngest population in the world, with 28, 29 years average age of the population. And with this, there's no doubt that India is a force to reckon with. And that, just yesterday I saw a news item that India's growth, economic growth, is very much in the 7 to 8%, 7.6% or something, even in the recent times. But there's a flip side. Apart from being the youngest nation, aspiring nation, there are certain growth parameters like Global Innovation Index, Global Competitive Index, Human Development Index, per capita income. In many other parameters, we are not necessarily occupying a very glorious position. So a nation which has nearly 20% of the humanity and is the youngest has a very rightful aspiration, which is very aptly articulated by the Honorable Prime Minister, that at the centenary year from independence, India must emerge as one of the developed nations. We must also remember that India produces is the largest producer of drugs and pharmaceuticals, second largest producer of steel and cement and coal, third largest generator of electricity, fourth largest producer of automobiles. And India made, the ISRO made the whole country and the nation proud by landing on the southern hemisphere of the moon just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So the question is, what it takes for India to truly emerge as a developed nation. In fact, I did some homework. There is no clear definition as to what makes a nation developed. But by and large, it's accepted that Human Development Index-wise, which India currently is at 0.655 or 665, those nations which are considered developed, they have a score of above 0.8. It's a long way to go. How do we approach that? That's the moot question. So the first question that I wish to pose before the esteemed panel today is, could we have the questions flashed on the screen? How important is scientific temper or approach, engineering invention, and culture of innovation to serve the foundational pillars for achieving Viksit Bharat at 2047? Just to make the context even clear, Finland, with a population of 1/5 of the city of Calcutta, is placed at 7th in Global Innovation Index. South Korea, with 1/3 of India's population and area, is 4th in GII, and India is 39th. So we need truly a scientific temper and be really innovative. So my question to both of you, Dr. Asundi and Dr. Singh, what do you think should be our strategy, our policy, to make the entire population think differently, boldly, and innovatively to reach the goal? Maybe Dr. Asundi, you may begin. You don't? How come? Do we have hand mics? Or maybe Dr. Singh, you can start. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, now it should. Okay, then use a hand microphone.
So I think last part of the question is something that we all really need to look into. What will make India a technological self-reliant nation? Now, if we look at the scientific discoveries and the knowledge production that we see, we all know about our contributions. India is among the top knowledge producers in terms of research publications that we do. In terms of patents also, we have improved significantly. We are among the top 5 patent filers, and the best part is that the resident filing has improved significantly with over 50% filing coming from Indian residents. But I think what is more important is how do we translate that knowledge into actual usable products which have socio-economic value. So the point is, if I know how to make a missile or how to make a gun, and if I don't really make a product, if I don't really make a missile or a gun, I will not be able to protect my country. So the point is, the knowledge that we produce, essentially it has to convert into usable products. So productization, I believe, is a very important goal that we should have for ourselves. And this is happening also in one way or other. And that, I believe, is very important in our journey for technological self-reliance. If we want to become self-reliant, we have a lot of things happening like Make in India and so on. But if we really want to become technological self-reliant, our STI ecosystem, which has largely been, and it's not the fault of our institutions, because the value system which has influenced our institutions has, gone with the belief that knowledge is a common good. It increases if you share it. We never try to, convert that knowledge into the monetary part of that knowledge was largely missing, but this realization has come up to a large extent nowadays. And it is very important that the ecosystem that we have, it starts looking into how do we translate, how do we convert that knowledge into actual usable products. And I believe to start with would be, a good idea would be to look at, the import data. If you look at import data and probably you start with something like import substitution and trying to indigenize some of the technologies that we can, some of the products that we can, this could be a good starting point to start with in order to have our goal of achieving self-reliance. So I think the most important thing that we have is a greater realization and a greater support system for converting the knowledge that we produce into actual usable products which have socio-economic value.
So I think that's the clue, that we have to move towards commercialization of innovations that we do into products available in the market. Dr. Asuji, your take?
Thank you, Professor Manna, for this question and for this opportunity. I think the first thing I would like to revert to is what we've got in our constitution, where this notion of scientific temper. And I think I would be speaking to the choir here, which will really talk about, yes, science is important. But I think what we really need to do is try to make sure that it starts entering every individual village, town, and every area of the country, where people start thinking about science not as something that is only carried out in big universities or colleges, but can also be done at the home, can be done in their local areas. And so then that's where the scientific temper approach would come up, which is where we would then get into notions of innovation, where I believe there is a culture of innovation, but how do we use science to push that forward? And that is where we would really be able to get every mind in our country. We have a very large population. How do we get every mind in our country to start thinking about some of the problems that they face in their towns, their villages, and find appropriate solutions in those places? There may be solutions that they could come up which are very specific to their areas, but also could be translated into something that could be used across the country in other villages where similar problems are faced. So I do feel that scientific temper and this notion of innovation. Now, what do we mean by scientific temper is this idea of need for a rigorous method for looking at fact, looking at evidence, and using that evidence to produce solutions that are robust and are able to be applied universally.
So penetrate into the rural India. More people, significantly more people even today live in the rural India. and just doing science in 1 or 2 metropolitan cities is not going to change the face of the nation. So obviously, we have to take the scientific temper to every nook and corner of the country. The next question is, in what way should science policy evolve to integrate STI, science, technology, innovation, beyond economic growth, aligning with India's centenary aspiration of technologically self-reliant or Atmanirbhar Bharat? So again to you, Dr. Asundi. I mean, I just put the context in this way that almost majority of the scientific instruments or the medical instruments we use in the hospitals in medical technology, they are imported. Semiconductor technology is in its infancy. We have to change those scenarios.
I think you have it for Ranjana.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is for, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you, Professor Manna. It's very true that economic growth, industrial competitiveness, global rankings, patents, all are very essential when we talk of self-reliant India in 2047. But I believe that India has very strongly put forward at the global platform Indian view of science, technology, innovation. If I talk of G20, when we say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, or in the recently held AI Summit, where our theme was Sarvjan Hitaye, Sarvjan Sukhaye. So I think Indian STI policy is very clear that science, technology, innovation is not only for growth engine, but it is people-centric. How the society can be benefited from the fruits of science, technology, innovation. So that philosophy of India itself says that only restricting ourselves to economic growth is going to give us a very narrow focus on the development. STI policy now look at the societal challenges which in the 21st century we are facing. Let it be climate change, health, water scarcity, education to all, and all kind of things, they really need attention, and society is looking towards a STI policy towards it. Today we have heard in the morning very luminary talks by the Padma Shri awardees and Honorable PSA. Dr. Bala mentioned about mission mode, mission-focused projects. So our policy should be mission-oriented, particularly aligned with the societal goals, whether we are talking about clean energy, water security, sustainable agriculture, and also very important is diversity, inclusion, access, and equity. Because India is a very diverse country, one rule cannot be applied to all, one policy cannot be applied to all. So our policy should be sensitive towards gender, caste, marginalized sections, languages, and also towards, regional diversity. Why innovation, startups, etc. should happen only in the elite institutions or only by a couple of people. So it should reach to tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities, where the real masses are, being groomed by the state universities, by local colleges, languages are there, and they are also having the context of societal problems. So I think if we have that diversity, inclusion, part of our science policy, with our traditional knowledge, we can give sustainable solutions to the world. Thank you.
So like Dr. Asundi said about go penetrate to the villages, you're also saying that the development should be people-centric, not just very esoteric science, but science which actually touches the lives of the million. That allows me to recollect, Honorable Prime Minister at the launch of Imprint said, science is universal, but engineering must have a local context. So implementation has to have a policy towards the people. Next round question is, how can Anusandhan National Research Foundation, ANRF, currently the implementing body of the science and technology projects in the country, How can ANRF strengthen interdisciplinary collaboration and research engagement across universities, colleges, and R&D labs? How can ANRF attract and assure industry to invest in research? Dr. Asundi.
So this is a very difficult question, simply because when we talk about interdisciplinary collaboration, I think many of us here would know that that is actually very hard. The easiest thing about collaboration is actually writing it down on a piece of paper. But to actually implement it is incredibly difficult. But there are a few things that I feel that the ANRF can really help. One is the idea that there are various programs within that, and one of them that really caught my eye is the Translational Research and Innovation, or A3 as it's called, the initiative, which is about working on TRL4, or what we would call lab scale validation, to TRL7, which is prototype demonstration in the environment for market-ready products. I think the fact that there is a specific area put out for that will make sure that the research centers and the industry partners will be able to work together to be able to produce the product. There are other programs, I think, within the ANRF that can also help. One is, of course, the Mission for Advanced and High Impact Areas, where apart from the specific areas, there's also a number of fellowships, chairs, and research grants available to institutions to allow for not only development of the science, but also work on collaboration with the private sector. If I were to just add the last part, is that the R&D spend by private sector in India is relatively lower than many of the developed countries. And that is one place where if we have to reach Viksit Bharat, we will need the private sector to really step in and increase the amount of R&D spend. Now, what that will be specifically is something that we will have to discuss and decide over the coming years.
That allows me to make a comment here. You know, we have been talking about the need of industry-academia interaction, or the lack of it, for ages. I've always, whenever I've interacted with the industry to bring funds for my project proposal, I feel that what crosses the mind of the industry is that I bring in money and then I work research on a common space. How do I protect the IP? Why should I bring that money? So these are the questions which we need to resolve. I think ANRF must address this. Otherwise, the ambition of putting on table 1 lakh crore and expecting another 1 lakh crore coming from the industry may not be possible to realize. So we'll have to address that. My next topic is what specific reforms in institutions like DST, CSIR, DBT, all the government departments, ICMR, are needed to foster nationwide culture of research and innovation? How can we tap the resources of and human capital from private institutions and industry beyond government-funded institutions? And I would request Dr. Ray to kindly respond.
Thank you, Professor Manna. Good afternoon. I see a lot of young people at the back, so let me direct the answer to this question at them. Because, you know, when we go out and make our own buying decisions, if we are buying onions or we're buying a cell phone or we are deciding which PG to go live in, we make our decision based on 3 things. The first is, who cares? Does it matter where I live? Does it matter what I buy? Who sees what I'm doing? The second is it practically achievable? And the third is, does it create value? In fact, all that the national institutions do are fundamentally tuned to these 3 things. Who cares? Is it executable? And does it create value? So I think the core question, the one reform that was really badly needed and that has happened, I don't see Professor Karandikar here, but he has announced it recently. And I know that generations of secretaries have worked on freeing up the government's research arms from the general financial rules. So we've seen the special financial rules, we've seen the ANRF and the RDI fund. So money is now much less of a constraint than it was. What we now need is a design, an outcome-focused design that integrates the central missions, the states, the universities, industry, and startups into a single, predictable, publicly visible pipeline from discovery to market and what Dr. Ranjana said, socioeconomic impact, which then delivers two things, only two things: national competitiveness and income opportunities for those coming into the labor force. If we are able to create this design with just these two objectives in mind, I think the 5 agencies here will get to what we believe. Now the question is, how do we do it? The first is we must maximize synergies, and the second is we must minimize duplication. How do we maximize synergies? I'll just give you 2 examples. Let's take biotech. DBT, CSIR, ICMR, ICAR, and DST. They have all sorts of calls which overlap. So with each call set, have a national biofoundry and a pooled platform, whether it is clinical trials or field trials, with a sectoral lead who can be varied over time so that no particular agency is given overweightage. And then you give it outcome metrics. You know, how do you measure things? Not activities, but actual measurable outcomes. So how many IND filings, how many domestic GMP batches, how many new crop strains introduced with what yield variants, and what measurable reduction in import dependence, like Vivek Singh ji said. Now I'll give you a really important number here. How many of us, can we do a quick show of hands, how many of us believe that India needs to import petroleum? How many of us believe that India needs to import petroleum? I don't see any hands going up. So we don't need to import petroleum? 1. Only 1 person thinks, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let me tell you the dark fact. Since 1977, India has thrown away more carbon atoms every year than it imported as petroleum. Since 1977. And why? Because we have never focused technology on conversion of waste carbons to petroleum until about, I don't know, 15 years ago, when impetus was given behind the ethanol and biogas missions. So where is our data-driven analysis across our agencies? I think data-driven outcomes for these core objectives: improve national competitiveness, create jobs. Thank you.
Apart from answering, you also have raised a very pertinent question. I don't know how many of the audience actually could appreciate. See, India uses 1/3 of the world average of energy consumption. But India is the 3rd largest emitter of CO2 into the atmosphere. Now, what Dr. Ray is saying, that if we could capture all the CO2, we don't need to import petroleum. Now, that's a tall order, but a very logical question to raise. If we could capture all the CO2 emitted by the cement plants, carbon dioxide, steel plants, and so on and so forth, then that certainly could be a big source. And this is a science which is known, but the technology is not yet viable. So this is one direction in which we should seriously think about. This year, the focal theme of National Science Day celebration by DST has chosen Women in Science to make India a Viksit Bharat. So let me turn to my right. The next 2 questions. The first one, I mean, this is related to gender equity and inclusivity. You could very well guess what I was hinting at. The question is, what gender-responsive policies such as re-entry, pathways, and gender audits are essential to boost women researchers' participation, confidence, leadership, finding access, and career progression? In plain and simple, how can we make the country not just gender sensitive, but having equal partnership? I mean, that's a tall order, but we certainly heard in the morning some very good progress is made. Let me pose this question to Dr. Arora. Dr. Kushmita Arora, please.
Thank you, sir, for this question. We have seen, as we entered this hall, many posters of luminaries in science and technology from India, and there are several women there. But over the last several decades, these numbers, these progressions have increased a lot. Statistics were shared by our principal advisor, Professor Sood. So I don't want to repeat that. I just want to give one example from the center that I come from, Indo-German, and so this includes not only Indian, but German also, Science and Technology Center. Two examples I will compare. One, we have a specific woman-centric program of science and technology collaboration called WISER, where German and Indian women collaborate. And over just last 5 years, the number of applications rose from 40 to 370, 5 years. There is another program called 2+2, which is a technology conversion program, and it is with industry and academia together. Here, over last 15 years, we had 22 PIs out of about 250, which is less than 10%. So I have been trying to think about what these numbers may reflect. There is no dearth of enthusiasm and competence, and that was reflected in our numbers of scholars which are coming out, both men and women, and increasingly large number of women. And these people, although more is towards health and biotechnological sciences, but also in physics and other sciences. So what happens when these people come out? There are three factors is what I understand: personal, social, professional. In the personal space, many a times, I think there is a sense of being a little bit inhibited to take on very large-scale responsibilities, which I think got reflected in our 2+2 programs, that we will be able to reach the solution and steer a large group of people towards the common solution. Whereas when they go towards their own personal scientific career, they are able to progress much more. Socially, there are still few factors, including safety, which sometimes become daunting problems, particularly in the hinterlands, perhaps. Professionally, we already, particularly DST, have many re-entry programs. Upward from those re-entry programs, we also need to monitor how many of them are getting recruited into the mainstream and how they are progressing towards leadership, where the numbers are falling, what kind of gender-sensitive and gender-neutral policies institutionally are being implemented to secure their positions. Thank you, sir.
You know, we do have government-implemented measures like maternity leave, now also paternity leave. We have also measures where age bar is waived or raised or something like that. But that's not still enough. This, call it re-entry or resumption of the career progression, is still a matter of concern for the women folks who are in the profession. I don't think there's a very easy solution, but the country as a whole has to change its attitude to make sure that the women in profession, they actually do progress as much as the men do. Anyway, so let me move on to the next part, which is how can India harness women's intellectual capital more comprehensively to build an inclusive STI ecosystem that balances, and I repeat, balances excellence and equity? I mean, will merit be the only measure, or what could be the possibility? Professor Agarwal, please.
So, Professor Manna, these two words, excellence and equity, they are very interesting because I think women has been denied what they deserved by this claim of excellence. But I think excellence and equity, they are bridged by women's intellect. Without equity, excellence is fragile. And I believe without equity, excellence is not sustainable. So it's very important that we have equity with the excellence. So that is the balancing point. And women has to be part of the STI ecosystem if we want to attain self-reliance by 2047, because women constitute 50% of the population. But for that, our policy should be such that from the very beginning, from the primary school itself, that these girls should be nurtured towards their potential, towards excellence. We talk about leaky pipeline. So why do we lose these brilliant girls who are coming out of the colleges, universities, but they don't turn into the professional roles? So that we have to look into. The other thing, I think today Professor Sood has mentioned very beautifully about the leadership roles, how the new directors, vice chancellors, funding committees, they all are having representation of women. But I think we need more and more. Another thing very important is to retain the women into the mainstream by devising a system, evaluation system, which is not same for men and women, because women have very different responsibilities and they can be assessed by different parameters. They can be as societal, interdisciplinary, mentoring, etc., etc. And for them, having a continuous career, uninterrupted career should not be kind of a stigma, because they have to bear the biological role which the nature has assigned to them. All said and done, what I see in the policies, that policies most of the time address visible biases. So the biases which are visible to the society only talks about them. But being women, I can say that there are so many invisible biases which we women face. So our policy should integrate those invisible biases also. And the issue is, in India, we do not have enough statistical data, technical data, infrastructure point of view. We don't have enough, data points to inculcate these invisible biases into our policies. And I very confidently say that today, women, whether these are the, roles which require physical strength or emotional strength, women can do equally well. I am particularly very, very impressed by the ISRO's, model, which all of us know, but also about the Indian Navy model, where we have Sagar Navika Parikrama 1, 2, and now we have Samudra Pradakshina, where it's, the whole globe is being trotted by women leaders, I will say, women scientists or women engineers. They are trotting the whole globe. Maritime engineering they are doing in a small boat. So that's very remarkable that women now are not having any kind of boundaries, any kind of, weaknesses attached to them because of their gender. So I believe that women have huge potential, huge intellect, and if India wants to attain self-reliance by 2047, their excellence and equity should be there.
I think you made a very strong pitch. We all appreciate this. It's paradoxical that India allowed voting rights franchise to the woman right from the beginning. India had women at the highest leadership position in this country, ahead of many European nations, many developed nations. And yet we are forced to talk about equity or gender parity in our society. But I think you said rightly that the balance is needed, otherwise we'll be looking for excellence from 50% and not 100%. Okay, so let's move towards industry, R&D, and to the next chapter on frontiers of technologies and AIs. Now, innovation pipelines and national initiatives. So the next question is, how effective have initiatives like Atal Innovation Mission and Startup India been in bridging the gap from laboratory to market-ready technologies? What gaps remain? How can these entrepreneurship extend to hardcore engineering like quantum computing, space technology, energy harvesting? To our expert from Niti Aayog, Dr. Singh.
So for a change, yeah. So I think it's a very important question. We all know what has happened in the innovation ecosystem that we have. Atal Innovation Mission, being one of the initial starters in 2015, did play a very important role. Atal Innovation Mission has Atal Incubation Centers, then we have ATLs in schools and so on. So there are a lot of individual success stories coming out of all these incubation centers and so on. And also if you look at startups, the whole effort by DPIIT and the overall systems that we have in startup ecosystem, we know that India is now among the largest startup ecosystems, and the recent figure of January 2026 is about, we have more than 2 lakh startups as per Startup India data from DPIIT. So I think the second part is what we really need to look into. Most of the, actual productization or most of the technologies that we develop, if we talk about deep tech and largely areas like quantum, space, energy, these areas, they need a kind of institutional support base. So most of this has a lot of scientific basis, scientific discoveries associated with them. So probably what we need to do at the next step is 2 important things. One, we need to have a well-developed faculty entrepreneurship policy in place, because this is very, very important that researchers and faculty members in our higher education institutions and R&D labs, we have a clear framework that they're able to translate, able to take forward their discoveries into, with the help of course, companies, startups, Section 8 companies and so on, to actual products. That's one very important thing that we need. And also the second important thing that we probably need is at this point of time is, we know about incubation centers being supported by different departments and ministries. So DST has its own, DBT has its own, Atal Innovation Mission has its own. So there are a lot of departments within Government of India, and there are also initiatives from state governments which support incubation centers and the whole innovation pipeline. Probably what we need to do at this point of time is some kind of linking between them, networking between them, so that all of them can learn from each other. And probably we also start thinking about the second level incubation centers. So most of these incubation centers that you see out of all these programs, they are largely first level incubation centers. We need incubation centers to be more capable to support things like market access, marketing, looking at financial risk and so on. So probably our incubation centers will have to go beyond what they have been doing traditionally. So 2 important things to close with. One, we need a clearly defined researcher entrepreneurship policy so that discoveries in institutions, largely in deep tech, can be taken to market. And number 2, we need more equipped, more capable incubation centers who are, who can play a more important role when it comes to deep tech. Thank you.
That's true. Actually, entrepreneurship leading to a software development or a application development has less risks and less investment. Whereas when we talk of deep techs, there's a lot of risk, a lot of chance of failure, some bit of an insurance against them, some strategy that may be useful and that may be required to think about. The next topic is what policy measures can better support entrepreneurship, skilling, and regional innovation ecosystem to nurture innovation pipelines? What should be the measure of success? I mean, that's something like we always say that we chase success. What should be the parameters? So, Dr. Ray, please.
It's almost a continuation of what I said earlier. I was giving you 2 measures. But let me take this question in slightly bigger depth again, looking at our younger stakeholders at the back, right? This word innovation, it's a very interesting term, and we tend to broad brush it, but it actually requires a fundamental understanding of the differences between fact, viewpoints, and beliefs. Because when you engineer a product, then you're depending on facts and scientific validation. But when a product goes to market, it depends on viewpoints and beliefs. So I think that by creating a STEM and non-STEM ecosystem without seamless boundaries with psychology, social sciences, anthropology, marketing, and commerce, we actually run the risk of disconnecting the product innovation ecosystem with the market innovation ecosystem. And if you look at our large neighbors across the border, they have actually mastered this. Yeah? You mentioned Scandinavia earlier, mentioned Finland. Finland has absolutely mastered this, right? A small country like Slovenia has done pretty well. You look at Israel. So we have created compartments, a world that is broken up by narrow domestic walls. We are not recognizing that even in our Vedas, we recognize the difference between Gyan and Vigyan. We recognize the difference between Gyan and Buddhi, wisdom, discernment of knowledge. So using that, I will just talk about a couple of things. One is the structural anomaly, exactly what you said. Our startup criterion for Startup India qualification is that you have to be less than 10 years since your creation. Now a deep tech startup can take 20 years, whereas a startup doing consumer tech or fintech might take 3. So we have one single criterion. We must look at how we define our policy criteria for different sectors under a startup mission. Then we are not engaging the states enough. So I'm all for saying we should create regional innovation hubs or maybe regional innovation authorities. You convert the state science and technology councils, empower them with budgetary autonomy, give them this SFR, special financial rule, aligned procurement powers for ANRF or RDI supported projects, and mandate them to run regional mission calls. I mean, today the Niti Aayog looks at the performance of states through the MOSPI National Indicator Framework. But we don't actually take the same R&D initiatives down to state level. They're run centrally. So we must fix that disconnect.
You know, skilling is something which we often miss out. We pay so much attention on innovation or something, but technologies change so fast these days. Some kind of refresher arrangement, even midstream, may be required. And that will be very important also to sustain. An entrepreneur is not necessarily doing only for one single innovation.
Exactly.
So midstream refresher courses or intervention may be necessary.
Yes, that entire skilling exercise that we talk about, you know, I think that we need to skill less if we, we'll need to skill less if we drill less. I mean, I personally believe that there should be, over time, especially after what we heard from Dr. Shashi Shekhar Vempati earlier, I think we should, if not do away, reduce the textbook burden and go to an online curated module at a central level. Schools, colleges should be able to print from there as appropriate for the courses that they are teaching. And they should be more and more aligned to local needs. I mean, why do we need textbooks anymore? It's all out there.
Well, that part, those from academia, I don't know how much we...
No, I'm saying it's a policy. We are talking policy. Right. So I'm saying as a policy, we should consider
allow them
reducing
to make
that
mistakes,
emphasis.
Honest mistakes. Yeah, sure. Okay, we move to R&D investment and funding challenges. We all know that money talks and funding is required. And that's one question we have been always asking ourselves. With India's investment on R&D at 0.64% of the GDP, compared to 4.9% in Republic of Korea and 5.3 or more in Israel, and well below the global average. What strategies can elevate the R&D expenditure to support Viksit Bharat? If we really want to make it to that level, is 0.65% of the GDP enough to promote the culture of innovation and R&D? To Dr. Singh.
Well, one thing is very, very important, that 0.64% of GDP being the GERD is not going to sustain us for a long period of time. If you look at the recent release of Global Innovation Index in 2025, you will see India marked as innovation overperformer. So what it does mean is that we are producing more in terms of outputs as compared to the inputs that we put into the science, technology, innovation ecosystem. So this, of course, needs to improve significantly. We are less than 50 rank in terms of our gross expenditure on R&D. So this really needs to improve. But the bigger question now is what should be our strategy to improve it further? Now, any government, so of course, the first thing would be as GDP grows, we'll have a higher GERD. So that's something that we keep on hearing. But the more important part is that we need to diversify investment into science and technology, and probably unlike what we have in India, where a bigger portion comes from public fund as against what happens in many other countries, we also need to diversify in the sense that we need to attract more investment from private sector. But now the question is, why would private sector come forward to invest in, research and development? So in fact, even now, there are a lot of multinational companies in India who give the smaller problems to students in our institutions, but the PhD level problems go to MIT, Stanford, and so on. Okay, because of a number of reasons that we all need to look into. So probably what we can do at this point of time is look at some kind of tax incentives. That could be one way to attract investment. Something like many other countries have, they have incremental benefits. We also used to have these benefits 7-8 years before, where we had, so for a private sector, if you're investing in R&D, either in-house or in a public funded institutions, you were eligible for 175% weighted input tax deduction. That has been reduced substantially now. It's about 100%, and that too has become inoperative in the new tax regime. So the new tax regime, you really can't claim. And also because of the fact that capital tax rates have been lowered, so private sector is not really looking at these tax incentives as a good option to leverage. So probably what we need to do is to go for incremental benefits as practiced in many other countries, not just like plain level benefits that we have. And number two, what we can do is we can also think of some bold steps. A step like we can create a corpus which is eligible for Section 80G deductions, maybe 100% deduction. I believe a lot of people, a lot of individuals, a lot of organizations would be coming forward to invest in R&D if there is a tax incentive associated. For me particularly, if I'm given a choice that I can, instead of 30% tax that is deducted out of my salary, if I have a choice that I can give it to a university and I get 100% weighted tax deduction, I would go with that. So probably that is something also that we really need to look into. We need to look into new kind of tax incentives, new kind of corpus that we really need to put forward. At this point of time, if you look at the overall support system for postdoctoral fellows, all departments combined, we have hardly 22 to 2,500 fellowships at postdoctoral level, which is nothing as compared to India. PhD, we are slightly better. We have about 22 to 24,000 fellowships. But in order to create a postdoctoral ecosystem, we need more money. For higher FTE, which is essential, we need more money. So investment has to go beyond 0.64%. Now the challenge is from where this money is going to come forward. So of course, private sector, philanthropic contributions, individual contributions is something that we really need to explore.
That's very interesting that instead of corporate social responsibility, you're talking about individual responsibility towards promoting science. Yeah, that's interesting. So, Dr. Arora, we are all very happy that ANRF announced this 1 lakh crore Research Development Innovation Fund. And there, the question is, how do we make the best use of it to prioritize basic research, early career scientists, and technology translation? Is it necessary to compartmentalize fundamental and applied, or what is your understanding in that?
Sir, this question probably needs a very complex answer, which in a few minutes may be difficult. But I've been thinking about this. This newly developed fund actually brings a lot of responsibility with it to use, to optimally use it to get the best possible results. And when we have better results, I will go back to the point of funding. When we have more and more strong results, perhaps we can afford to also increase the percentage of funding for R&D. So science and technology have two origins. One is simply curiosity and creativity. It's the origin, and that was where, when science started, it was all as hobbies. Science was not even a profession at that time. But now science and technology also needs a lot of money and will continue to need more money. So now with money also needs to come a sense of direction. So I think that the science which is curiosity driven should have some allocation that makes the fundamentals, and we as a nation or any community in fact should not we cannot afford to lose that. So maybe 25 to 30%, this is a ballpark figure, I haven't done any real analysis, should be allocated for the curiosity-driven science, which will have an output, but will take time. The other does need to be put to translational science with outcomes. We need to see how PIs at early career to mid-career levels coming from universities, which are not yet teaching these languages, how they can be trained in the concepts of TRL, not only TRL, but DRL, FRL, HRL, human readiness level, funding readiness level, deployment readiness level, and how they can learn to work in multi-component teams which will have complementary expertise to bring something to its final culmination.
So not the old model, sort of new thinking, new models of investments are
Also,
necessary.
a little bit of detail I will just mention in passing is that already this is a complex structure for new young PIs to take care of. We also need to find ways to little bit relieve them of administrative responsibilities which are taking a lot of their time. I'm seeing it from a very close distance in our organization.
Right, of course, yeah. In the interest of time, we have already exceeded 1 hour. I'll just take just 1 or 2 more topics and not more. It's related to technology transfer and evaluation. We all are very keen on translation. So, Professor Agarwal, what stronger mechanisms for technology transfer, outcome-oriented evaluations, and academy, industry, government integration are needed to convert research into deployable technologies? Does our assessment and evaluation system and its parameters need a change, or we are happy with the conventional? Professor Agarwal.
So definitely we need a change in the evaluation system and the parameters so that we have more deployable technologies. Professor Vivek talked about the knowledge-based system which India has, number 3 in the publications, scientific publications. But when it comes to quality publications, we are a bit lower, number 8 or number 9. But still we are publishing more than 20,000 papers, scholarly articles in top 10% journals, scientific journals. So that means the knowledge base is there. But when we look at the conversion rate into deployable technologies, products, processes, India is lagging behind. It's not having the same kind of index to project that. So for that, it's very important for self-reliance that we have a strong transfer technology mechanism. At present, generally, it is like it is thought like it's the responsibility of the technology developer to develop the technology, have the, conceptualize the idea, execute it, develop the technology, and then translate it also. So which is not, I think, desirable, because we are wasting the time and talent of that particular scientist into these kind of activities. So they should be part of it, but there should be dedicated technology transfer offices with trained people who are trained in these kind of processes, who understand the intellectual properties, pathways, those who know the technology readiness level, technology maturity level, and all these kind of things they can handle. The second thing is evaluation system. So we really need a robust evaluation system rather than having output-based, how many patents, publications, etc., etc. We should have outcome-based evaluation system where we talk of impact, whether on the environment or the society. So that kind of thing should be there. And about the integration of 3, the triple helix model, which we call it, where the industry, academia, and government come together to take that particular technology from, lab to land. Here I will say we should go beyond triple helix model. We should have the quadruplex model where we also integrate society into it. Because there may be many grassroots innovators who can basically depending upon the pull from the society for the need of that particular society, and they are also the consumers of that particular technology.
Eventually, they are the consumers.
So they are the consumers, so we should develop this strong quadruplex model where three technology developers and the consumers, they work together. So that's my say on that.
Yeah, thank you. We'll take one last topic, and it's very relevant. Dr. Ray, you were in the industry, you have been with CSIR, one of the premier labs, for a long time. I know you are very passionate about translation. So the question is, how can funding agencies better support investigator-led basic research and individual PI pursuing a basic research topic while ensuring accountability for innovative outcomes? How to ensure seamless translation of science to engineering and eventually to technology, or the vice versa?
I think it's a topic very close to my heart, and it reflects directly on what Dr. Ranjana said, that first of all, you don't really need to distinguish basic and applied research, right? I would rather say discovery and application. Where we are learning, where we get to the core underlying science, that's the outcome of basic research, and the outcome should be something very clear, like validated hypotheses, whether you've developed a new method, you've created data sets or ways to access data sets. For example, what Dr. Arora said, or if you look at her work in geomagnetism. Now, if you don't understand the data sets, if you don't understand the behavior of the ionosphere, you're never going to be able to solve what Dr. Shubha did in Drishti in the long run. If you're going to see ionospheric disruptions, how are you going to design HAPS, right? So I think you just have to look at what are the measurable outcomes on a best in the world scale that these underlying research science projects develop. Whereas you also have to have capacity milestones, trained personnel, shared protocols, and translation readiness. If there is a translational readiness value, that depends on the type of project. Whereas for anything that claims to be technology, we say, people in academia, we hear the phrase, we have a technology for. Anything that has a technology should be globally benchmarked, should have very clear outcomes, and should say that if I achieve this, this is what success will look like. I have these metrics. I won't say I'm going to get in a car and drive. I'm going to say I'm going to get in a car of this type and drive so far, reaching that destination with so many fuel efficiencies and so many stops on the way. I think that the moment we get into the discipline of defining our objectives well and delinking objectives from activities in the way research projects are defined, financed, and monitored, we will change this country.
So I think with this, we would like to come to the close. I just want to make one final statement that reality is that life is not y equal to mx, that there is only one independent variable and one dependent variable and one independent variable. So for every challenge we face in life, obviously there could be multiple solutions. There's no unique solution. But we have got a number of very good clues. I would like to thank on behalf of INSA and the organizers very profusely two very eminent panelists here today for throwing up very novel ideas, very interesting ideas and contexts. And then with this, with the permission from the chair, President INSA, I would like to declare the panel discussion closed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, dear panelists. As we conclude this insightful panel discussion on science policy interface for catalyzing Viksit Bharat, we sincerely thank our distinguished panelists and moderator for their valuable expertise on strengthening the synergy between science, policy, and innovation. We are indeed grateful for them, and I now request Professor Shekhar Mande, sir, President, Indian National Science Academy, to felicitate our honorable panelists for today. First, we have Professor Vivek Kumar Singh from Niti Aayog. We now felicitate Professor Ranjana Agarwal, ma'am, former Director, CSIR, National Institute of Science Communication and Policy Research. Thank you, ma'am. We now felicitate Dr. Anjan Ray, CSIR, Indian Institute of Petroleum, former Director. We now felicitate Dr. Jay Asundi, Executive Director, Center for Study of Science, Technology and Policy. We now felicitate our next panelist, Dr. Kusumita Arora, Director, Indo-German Science and Technology Center. I now request our President to please felicitate the moderator for the session, Professor Indranil Manna, Vice President, Indian National Science Academy. Thank you so much, dear panelists and distinguished guests. With this, we formally conclude the panel discussion. Thank you all for your participation and engagement. We now disperse for the lunch. There is a kind announcement to all the representatives of schools and colleges. The coordinators of the respective schools and colleges are requested to please